Hello, good evening. Oh my goodness, I miss you all so much. We are live. This is the Marcia Week show, and guess what, guys? It's the end of the year, and we are excited. I see that people are on from 6:26, 6:20. You guys get on even before I get on. Happy New Year! Even days ahead. Monday is January 1st, 2024. And tonight we have a special show for you. Guys, this is Barbados in review. So we're looking at the entire year, all 12 months, and looking at various aspects. We have with us some great presenters who would have done their research. And I'm looking forward to this show. I see Mr. Franklin is here. And good night, sir. Good to see you.
Yeah, good night, and it's really good to see you too. I just hope for this year to finish quickly. I'm working too hard. I was in the office today, not long got home, because too many people in this country are being mistreated, and I find that I'm not complaining because they come to me and they try to
Mhm.
help, but it is unfortunate that it is so widespread, and it is like people hating each other. And they do everything possible to hurt people. I hope the next year will bring about some change in that type of behavior because it is not
Mhm.
good. These are people who look like me and you, that
Yes.
treat each other very badly for minor things, things that and make up things. Now, when you go to these meetings, sometimes I get angry. Say, wait, you really waste my time to come here for this. I got other things to do. This is nonsense. Why are you doing this? So I just hoping and praying that in the new year we will
Yes.
have some sort of change in behavior. But I don't know if it's people see how our leaders behave and they want to behave the same way, because people follow examples, good or bad, they follow them. So
Mhm.
if your mother was do things a certain way, you tend to behave
Yes.
like your mother or your father. And nationally, if the leaders of the country behave badly, the people in the country behaving badly too. And I think that is one of our biggest problems here. Nobody
Yes.
follows any rules. I'm hoping that come 2024, it's just around the corner, and there's nothing impossible for God. So I hope that He changes a few hearts, because not that I'm complaining, I'm getting work. Trust me, I want the work, I need the work. But sometimes it's some is trivial. Sometimes when I go and I see what it is, I tell the person, like, you don't pay, it's nonsense. And I have to move on, because they shouldn't have to endure that type of behavior. But it happens
Mhm.
every day,
Yeah,
you know.
I tell you, and you must have heard me in my house. I was just thinking about all the crimes that are being committed and how we are treating each other, even as black people in this black country, 90 something percent black, the way we treat each other. And so you're right on target with that. And this is all about us looking at the year in review, what has happened, and we want to be able to do this, Mr. Franklin, from a non-partisan standpoint. We are the opposition, and what I love about this opposition is that the opposition does not only consist of those who watch the Marcia Week show. Isn't that wonderful? Mr. Franklin, it's not really about those who watch the Marcia Week show, but it's about all of Barbados. It's about the 280,000 people that live in Barbados, those that voted for the government and those who did not vote for the government, right?
It's
Those who voted DLP or you voted BLP. This is non-partisan opposition. You were saying something, Mr.
Now I was
Franklin.
going to tell you very shortly. Those people who don't watch the Marcy Big show is going to be a very small minority, because everywhere I go, they they mention the Marcy Big show. I can't turn and town wherever I go, airport wherever I go. I'm hearing the Marcia Week show, and they're telling us, tell Marcia that she's doing a good job, keep up the good work. You name it, man. I'm heartened when I realized that, 6 months ago when we spoke about this thing, and I said, Marcia, we gotta do something about this thing, and I could have used your show. You said, and man, you just open your arms and took me in. Never forget that, you know,
Readily, readily, readily.
and it's I said, look, we are having a problem where I don't believe people are listening because I wasn't getting the feedback that I was, and I said, but I better stop wasting my time. But this show tells me that I'm not wasting my time and that God willing, I will continue, you know, despite my almost death a few weeks ago. you know, um, you know, I will, I will try my best to be here as as frequently as possible because there are too many things, and there's one thing, even though this is a year in review, Marcia, there's one thing that some answers need to be given about this check that I'm seeing today. This is a year in review, but that might be one of the last things that we have to review. But
Yeah,
no,
we
no,
have to,
no.
we will jump in, we're gonna jump into that. We're gonna
Yes,
have to
we
jump
need to
into that
talk about that,
because
Marcia.
yeah,
It doesn't look
it
good.
can't go like that.
It doesn't look good at all.
Yes, 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 yes. Correct, correct, correct. Guys, I want to just welcome those who we're going to get started with the year in review. We're just doing the introductory remarks right now, but we're asking you to really, really share if you're on, and because that's how the algorithm works. We need you to like it, like there's a little button there, and you just kind of click it, and for liking the show right now, only one person like it, but we have 107 on. All right, so it's a little thumbs up, right? And you click on that and it says that you like the show. Yes, somebody else just did it, so it's now 2 out of 107. All of that is going to push people to want to see the show. So those of you who are on, we're asking you to do that. Miss McLean is right there ready to come on, right? But we want you to go ahead and to like the show. And as we get ready, remember we don't have any ads on here. That's a good thing about it. At the moment we don't have that. We don't have that any ads on, and so we depend on you guys to really push the show. And 4 persons have liked the show. Have you subscribed? The 117 of you on here, have you subscribed? And you will see, I think it's a little bell on the opposite side. You will see where it said subscribe, and you just click that. All right, so go ahead. Only 4 persons have loved or liked. Whether you're on Facebook on the Marcia Beach Show. As far as I know, we are on Instagram at the moment. I'm trusting that it worked. We had some technical challenges, but we're trying. So guys, we need you to like. Oh, somebody's saying that they're seeing 14 likes. So I'm not sure why I'm not seeing all of those are not coming up on my screen. Here, thank you. Probably not yet. It's gonna come up as well.
I'm saying 17.
You've seen 17 likes. Okay, so guys, like it. When you like, the algorithm is going to cause others to see it. It's going to come up, right? And we want that to happen. Let me just say hi to Carol Barker. Welcome and thank you for joining at 6:26. Sir Alfred Benjamin. Oh my goodness, from Brooklyn, New York, and you are on exactly at 7:01. Stefano Demaro, thank you. Glenn Griffith. Oh, wonderful. Please share, Glenn. Lorraine Spooner. Oh, my Lord. It's so good. And we've come to the end of the year. We're all still here. Kryptonite. Welcome. Good night, reviewers. We're ready. We're ready. We're ready. And I'm glad the way you said that, Kryptonite, because what it means is that I hope we're ready to call the number 236 7,000. I'm going to ask Dave to put that up on the screen because we want you to call in. We want you to call in and give your review as well. All right. And we'll tell you the times that we're asking you to call in and to give your review. We want to hear from you as well. You live in Barbados. Jack Sobers, good night. Mystic Angel, good night. Colin Clark, good night. Good night, folks. Please share. Please share. Angela, night. Oh, wonderful. I haven't seen you in ages, but you're always here. Thank you, Tracy Barrow. Welcome. Llewellyn Eiffel. Hi. Hi. How are you? Tony Paris, welcome. Happy New Year. We're getting to the end of the year. We want to hear from you all tonight, guys. We want to hear. Jack Murphy, thank you. You said it's a great show. Thank you. Thank you so much for those who have commented. And we want you to call. Put this number down, guys. 246-236-7000. You can WhatsApp, but it would be better if you call, just in case anybody calls and bumps off your call, right? And we are asking you to call in and to share your thoughts. All right. And where you can call in this evening at 7:50. You are free to call in at that time at 7:50 is when we would like for you to call in. Start calling in this evening. So write down the time, please. All right. And let's write down the time, write down the number, and let's hear from you. Well, Mr. Franklin, it is Barbados in Review 2022 to 2023. We are here 12 months, and we have with us a former senator of Barbados, Miss Maxine McLean. She's also a former lecturer at the University of the West Indies, and someone who loves Barbados and has had, institutions like the credit union. She's worked there for many, many years and have been part of the formation of, several credit unions and boards and all kinds of different organizations that she sat on various boards and have contributed significantly to the development of Barbados. And I'm honored this evening, Mr. Franklin, that she would grace our presence here. And she is going to review tourism. Ms. McLean, welcome.
Thank you very much, and welcome to you, and hello to everybody. I want to wish Barbadians and everybody who joins us, because we have an international audience, uh, a blessed Christmas season. I believe in the 12 days of Christmas. So Christmas is not one day for me. And so I really want to thank you for having me on this. And as we come to the end of 2023, I want to thank you for having this show. I know it's a lot of work. One small correction, Kaz will tell, I never worked at the credit union. I was a volunteer. I worked hard, but I never worked there. As in, as in I was not paid to do that work. We were volunteers. So but that is something dear to me. And I, as you said, you're doing a year in review, and I tried to stick to your instructions to prepare a proper presentation. um and so if it doesn't quite meet your expectations, that's okay. I think you will let me know, but
No, no, I'm excited and I'm looking forward to it. I'm just going to ask Dave to begin to put up the PowerPoint for us,
Mhm.
so that we can get going this evening. While we're doing that, I'm going to ask persons to write down the number. We want to hear from you tonight. We really want to hear from you tonight. 246-236-7000. We want to hear from you tonight. Okay, very, very important that happened. Well, we're gonna turn this over to Miss McLean, who has prepared a feast for us, and so we're gonna go right into that discussion now.
Well, thank you very much. And as the title says, the year in review, the tourism sector, Barbados 2023. And what I want to do is I've given an outline of the presentation. There are four points in there. So the second slide would show you the areas that I am covering. And so if you look at that second, Dave perhaps can move to the second slide, as I'm not controlling it from this end. So what I wanted to say something about really is the importance of the sector to Barbados. Some look at some indicators of performance, and do a bit of a comparison with regional competition. In other words, as a member of the CARICOM and within the Caribbean, because not only Are we talking about CARICOM? You could look at Cuba, you can look at Dominican Republic, and so on. Bahamas, of course, is within CARICOM, but it is very up north and very much a part of it. So I also want to say a couple of things about, express some concerns going forward. And having said that, the next thing I want to stress is just to share a couple quotes in terms of the importance of the sector to Barbados. And that quote, and I can cite numbers and so on, but in one article I was reading, it says more than this, because they're talking about Barbados, more than this, Barbados lacks the abundance of natural resources to competitively develop other industries or competitively engage in international trade. This is not my opinion. This is an opinion of somebody else. And they're going to say, thus, tourism has emerged as the main source of foreign exchange, accounting for nearly 50% of foreign earnings on average. And that is a general view. That was shared by a writer out of the Spanish speaking area of the region. The third slide and the next slide goes on to share that importance. So hopefully we can thank you, and we can go to the next one because I read that quote just now. So the other point I want to illustrate using the views of the United Nations World Trade Organization, World Tourism Organization. International tourists in Barbados spent in 2021, because this is the importance, just under 600 million US dollars. And this excluded passenger transport expenses. So, for example, that when they say transport, they're talking about flights and so on, because essentially that money, and I suppose internal transportation, it isn't captured as easily, but the main part of that would be, airfares and so on. And this, because we're talking about this year, this was a significant decrease compared to the previous year, which would be 2020, when the country reported international tourist receipts greater than 1 billion US dollars. That is an interesting thing because 2020 we would have been at, well, I suppose that we would have had the issue of COVID. So having said that, you really, and I just want to share with viewers that the statistics that I am quoting are actually not stuff that I made up or numbers I made up, but they are cited by a number of sources: the Caribbean Travel Trends Digest, for example, Tourism Analytics Barbados. And they in turn indicated that they would have pulled their numbers from the Barbados Statistical Service, the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., and Central Bank of Barbados. I just want to quickly say that in trying to collect information, I was a little disappointed in what I call the challenge of accessing information from Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., because if you go on their website, they're asking you a whole set of questions, which for somebody like me, what company you're from, and title and all kinds of things. I'm a retiree interested in doing research, so none of those things apply to me. But those are questions that you had to answer. So I left it. But my suggestion, as I would say later on, is if you're talking about sharing information, we need to do that. So I can go on now to share a little bit of the statistics that are there. And for example, if you look at the stopover visitors to Barbados this year up to November, there's a breakdown by country or jurisdiction, and it says Barbados stopover. That's the monthly figures. But before that, there's I'll look at that and then I'll go back because you have the right one here. Basically, you can see that in 2023 up to November, the statistics report that we would have received visitors spending time in Barbados. This excludes cruise tourism, of about 559,701 persons. And that compared with last year, which would have been 469,259. So there was a 19.3% increase from last year to this year. But the next slide talks a bit more about stopover visitors, not only in 2021, 22, but this takes now to give us some comparisons. And I think this is important because when we look at 2019, which is a significant year because it's the year before we had to deal with the full effects of COVID, because, we went into lockdown early 2020. And so if you look at the numbers, and I'll work from 2019 and go back, we had a total of stopover visitors. And while it is broken down monthly, January, etc., I'll go to the bottom and look at year to date. So what it is saying is that in 2019, we had about 712,946 visitors. In 2022, we had 539,746. And in 2020, and I think what would have happened, we would have had some people come in before the lockdown, and we had about 195,000, and that figure dropped down to 144,833. So what we are seeing is that between, let's say 2022, which was last year, we don't have the figures for this year, but we can always slot those in to get a full picture. But there has been a decline of about 24%, almost a quarter percent. I mean, not a quarter percent, 24.3, which is almost 25%, or a quarter of those who came in 2019. They fell by that figure. And that is a concern for me because while I was not able to pull those numbers up, and I can do that probably later on when people are asking questions, if they ask questions about this presentation. But if anybody has been following what's going on across the Caribbean, and I do have a slide which shows some numbers for the rest of the Caribbean, what you will see happen in Jamaica, for example, has been very successful in not only reversing the trend, but they're surpassing those numbers. So if you look at the numbers for the other countries, but before I go to talk about that, so there's one thing to note in terms of Barbados is that we have not yet, based on these statistics, caught up in terms of returning to the level of or the number of visitors who came to Barbados and stayed, so those are the people who arrived at the airport, stayed in hotels, condos, visited family, and so on. And so that is part of the challenge we have now. If you then go on to look at, we could also talk about what's happening in cruise. Now, remember that if you're talking about tourism, we have two main components of our tourism activity. A main one is the what we call land-based tourists, the people who come and spend multiple days and so on, and then those who come by cruise ship. So one of the things that you would see, and let me deal with the figure that's in front of me, because what this is really saying is it takes a look at the numbers in terms of the Caribbean. If you look, and you go from Montserrat right down Cayman Islands, which is relatively small, I suppose, but Cayman Islands would have had over 300, almost 350,000 visitors in 2023 as compared to 200 and something in 2022. So you see that there's a positive increase there. If you go to Cuba, you would see that there has been again an increase from 1 million plus to 2 million plus in 2023. Jamaica, if you go down, Jamaica had a number of 1,775,000 or so, to from 1,400,000 and something thousand. So in essence, you're seeing a situation that is somewhat or very different from Barbados, in that we have seen in the Bahamas. Bahamas again has increased their numbers by 27%. Jamaica is about 24%. And for some reason, they separate Montego Bay. I think that is perhaps the cruise tourism, because you notice it's 4 million and something. So that is probably where a lot of the cruise ships come in. And so that is why they probably separated that in that number. On the other hand, what we see in Barbados, we do have an increase, but that increase is smaller. But it also, even though we saw an increase from last year to this year, as I pointed out, even with that increase, we still have not reached the numbers for 2023. And if you look at what's happening in Jamaica, for example, you would see that there is a significant increase. Now, I have a table here which is fairly difficult to see on the chart, but it says Caribbean stopover visitors ranked by in order of change, percentage change. And this is the one with, you can show this one on, bring it up full screen, because this illustrates the point that I'm making. And I'll share the numbers for you because it may be still, okay, great. So what you're looking at here is that you will see that between 2019, they're comparing the figures for 2019 and 2023. Turks and Caicos has seen a 36% increase between 2019, and the 2023 figure. San Juan has gone from 8.5 million tourists to 11 million plus. Cancun, Mexico has gone from 18 million, almost 19 million, have gone to 19 million from approximately 15 million, 25%, 26% increase if you round the numbers. Similarly, Curacao, Dominican Republic. Let's look at those countries that are a little closer to us. If you look at Grenada, Grenada has seen an increase from 2019 from 147,000 to 157, 7.2%. And I am sure Grenada is happy to have one of our former star promoters of Barbados, Petra Roach. We've lost an excellent person there, and I can only be concerned about that. If you look at Jamaica, in terms of Montego Bay, which, as I said, I believe that is where you're talking about probably cruise, you're looking at a movement of 4.2 to 4.7, a 10.8% increase. Now you come down to Barbados, and what we're seeing this year, based on this number, Barbados has gone from 636,592 to 559. So we are still behind by 12.1%. And this for a country that is relying very heavily on cruise ship. I mean, not on cruise ship, but tourism arrivals and the generation of the foreign exchange, particularly within the context of the debt profile that we have now. And, a lot of we've seen a significant increase in debt. But that debt, as we know, is debt which is denominated in foreign currency, is foreign dollars that we have borrowed. And therefore, we have to be on an earnings path to ensure that we can generate the resources that we need to have. We can see Dominica falling significantly, but again, tourism in Dominica does not translate into the same level of importance of Barbados. If we look at as I said, the foreign exchange earnings, if we look at the employment and the number of businesses that perhaps constitute support, the provision of support services, etc., then that is a problem. I suppose if you look at Anguilla, Cuba has seen a significant fall off, but that perhaps is also explained by its relationship with the United States, but I don't want to dwell too much because we're talking about Barbados. So far, what this has shown is that we have pretty much lagged behind the rest of the Caribbean in terms of arrivals of stopover visitors. and therefore we have some significant issues there. Um, we also have to be concerned about what I call the other major segment of our another major segment, which has to do, which is really our cruise sector. And for me, as somebody who spent from the beginning of the operation of the cruise facility as we know it, um, we really have to be concerned. And so there is a small chart, a short chart, which says landed and in transit cruise visitors by month. And so that is the on page 5 of the slide. That's about page, well, not page, well, I'm sorry, I copied mine on 2 pages, but it says, and I'll tell you what it says as Dave looks for that. In terms of the cruise sector, what we were able to see happen, and this is positive, and I'm very happy to see that we had a significant increase between 2022 and this year. Last year, we only had 252,303 visitors. This year, we had 526,
Miss
114.
McLean, if you could just tell us again what this slide is that you want us to.
Okay, it is the one. It says landed and in transit cruise visitors by month. It's a short slide. If I turn this, you probably can see on the top here. It's about that one. It's so that's what it says. It's short. It says it has by month is 20. So it says landed and in transit cruise visitors by month. So as you look for that, I just want to say something about our cruise sector, because my concern is that we heard a lot, or a lot was said, but for persons like myself, I was skeptical because of my understanding of how the cruise industry works. Because you remember, during COVID, Barbados extended significant support to cruise ships that were stuck. Remember, trying to get crew off, because a cruise ship that carries about 2,000 workers, if you were trying to get those persons, yeah, this is it. If you were trying to get those persons back home, it would have taken multiple flights. A plane that holds 200 and something people, you're talking about 10 flights, or nine to 10 flights to move the crew back to base, or to get them back to their respective homes. And of course, so what happened was that there was a significant facilitation of cruise ships. And I remember the then Minister of Tourism saying to us that we could anticipate that that would have generated a significant amount of goodwill. I wouldn't even want to harp on the damage that we heard that was done to our coral reefs, which is a major issue. But the information shared made Barbadians believe that coming out of our hospitality, let me describe it as that, to the cruise sector, that they were going to reciprocate. But the truth is, cruise ships, the cruise sector, they plan their itineraries way in advance, a couple of years out and so on. So I didn't expect that we would have seen any significant shift. However, we have gone from 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. And one of the things that worried me was that we had a total drought in the summer. Because if you look at the chart there, there are there are 5 zeros in 2023. And that was worrisome for me, because if, as I said, the cruise lines were seeking to reciprocate, and to acknowledge and recognize and do something about beyond recognizing our support, I would have expected that we would have seen some kind of activity between May and September. Because typically, while the summer is a very slow one, you still would have almost on a weekly or almost alternate weeks a vessel or two calling. And I couldn't understand why, having heard all that I heard, we didn't see that. So that for me is a concern, and the concern therefore, in the absence of having itineraries for the rest of the season and the summer, because the recognize that the cruise season begins around late October, November, and runs until April, May. Um, then and then, as I said, you have a slow season. To see those kinds of zeros in 2023 to me is worrisome. And I asked myself, what kinds of negotiations have been going on, um, between the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association, the umbrella body, FCCA, which is the umbrella body for the cruise ships, and Barbados a destination, one that was considered very important. So I think when we look at these, my concern, it leads me to ask a set of questions. What exactly have we been doing? And I'm not only talking now about cruise, but about our long stay visitors, or as well. What are we doing in terms of our marketing and promotional efforts? And one of the things that I am concerned about, because as I said, I'm looking at the performance and looking at the whole issue of indicators of performance. We were promised, I recall, and this is not the first time I've seen it happen, and I think this was very glaring. We were promised great things when an expatriate out of, I think at the time he would have been recruited out to somewhere like Indonesia or something. And this guy, this, I'm trying to remember his name. He It was touted that he was bringing all this experience and expertise and knowledge and networks and contacts. I am yet to see, he's come and gone, costing us significant money. And in fact, I can see nothing, and I emphasize nothing, that he would have done to address any of the challenges that we had. Unfortunately, and I reiterate it again, the person who many of us knew as the person taking the lead on a lot of this, and I call her name again, Miss Roach, Petra Roach. Um, I don't know if she was interested in the position. I don't know if she applied for the position, if it was advertised. But I believe that when you have good employees, they should be given first consideration. But I can only speculate and ask questions. So, really and truly, when I look at these statistics, when I look at the energy that is being generated by the marketing programs, and we can go into details of those, something else by the other countries. You listen to Jamaica. Jamaica has been able to attract a number of new airlines. Barbados, for example, traditionally had a very healthy relationship, passenger wise and visitor wise, with the UK. What I am observing with interest is the number of persons from the UK, and I indeed I would probably say Europe, but I would have to bring the statistics, who are finding it more attractive to go to Jamaica on holiday. Now, there are a number of reasons for that. One, of course, I mean, I think Barbados has continued to be an extremely expensive destination for some people. We do have a very useful, important niche of high net worth persons. But as I tell people, an aircraft does not carry um, all first class seats or all first and business class seats. The vast majority of persons on an aircraft constitute economy passengers. And therefore, as we look to the UK, for example, we will continue to see those high net worth persons come into Barbados, I trust. Um, but we also need to find ways to get what some people describe as the aspirational traveler, because a lot of the persons in the UK are said to want to visit the places that they see the high net worth people come into. So Barbados has been attractive and an important destination. We would have seen a bump in numbers with when you had a cricket game, and once the British are playing here, we will see the so-called Barmy Army visit. But there's growing concern about the cost, and the other concern that parallels that is that people are concerned that we are not seeing the traditional high standards of service. And I think this is something that Barbadians have to flag. Barbadians in the industry, Barbadians across all sectors, private sector, public sector. And the truth is, and we could talk about this some more, service quality in Barbados has deteriorated significantly. Whether you're going to a commercial bank as a local, whether you're going into a retail operation in the city or anywhere around the country, you go into to offices. I mean, we've heard complaints of trying to get to talk to somebody in an organization. I recently was trying to get um, some information, and I was told if you send an email, they will get back to you or whatever. And I must tell you, sent it, and I'm still waiting. I got the information because I did it the old way. I picked up the phone and called. So as we look at performance, back to tourism, we have a national problem to address. If we are a high end destination, or where we have a significant high end, because high end, high cost does not mean high end. The high cost comes from the strength of the currency. Our currency is linked to the US dollar 2 to 1. A person who is coming from a jurisdiction where the exchange rate is multiples, I mean, even staying in the Caribbean, look at the exchange rate of the Jamaican dollar. I haven't checked the latest figure, but it is significantly different. And so what happens is when people convert their currency to Barbados dollars or US dollars, because a lot of our rates are quoted in US, then it becomes expensive for them. So if they come to Barbados, then they want to see significant, they want value for money, and that is something that we have to focus on in terms of how we deliver service. Another issue for us, Marcia and colleagues on hearing us across, you know, um, the world for that matter, because we know that we get listeners from everywhere, well, across several countries, is the challenge we have in terms of our regional travel. Barbados and the Caribbean are are Barbadians, let me say, or persons trying to travel to Barbados from the Caribbean. We are to a large extent frustrated by the absence of air transport, the connectivity. Unfortunately, and this is something that I think, with the demise of LIAT as we knew it, there has been no obvious replacement for what's happening. The truth is, and this is something that I would have argued with colleagues when I served as a minister of foreign affairs and foreign trade, because foreign trade is impacted by transport, for example. If we as a region understood what LIAT really stood for, LIAT was a public good. And let me explain what I mean by that. Air transport is a an expensive and highly risky business. we have seen in Barbados, I certainly would have been around long enough to see a number of airlines launch and die, because at the end of the day, if you are looking to operate strictly on commercial terms, you could only do that in limited in by limiting the routes that you use. But based on the model that we had for Liat, the benefits were really the business and the opportunities that were generated by the ability to move around. Um, you know, Crop over, which is a major tourism, um, that falls into the tourism calendar of Barbados. Trinidadians came here easily, and Trinidadians probably can still get here on Caribbean Airways. But other Eastern Caribbean, citizens would find it difficult. So one of the issues that we had is that we've seen a significant fall off in Caribbean tourism. Visitors, because of transportation issues. Even moving cricket teams around is proving to be embarrassing. Because we just don't have the kind of flights and so on. Now, there's another concern that I have when we talk about the issue of tourism. There's something called the multiplier effect. And I noticed that Mr. Bascom has put up the point about getting back to community tourism. I'm not sure what he's thinking about, but what I would say in terms of the multiplier effect and the generation of opportunities for the spreading of the tourism dollar, then community tourism will become a critical part of that. In other words, there are two things we need to talk about. As we, as a country, support the tourism sector by incentives, etc., there needs to be a requirement, in a way that we have not done it before, that there's a level of reciprocity. And let me explain what I mean by that. We have had over the years a manufacturing sector, whether it is in the food processing business, manufacturing of processed foods, whether it is the manufacturing of furniture and fixtures, we have not seen a commitment on the part of a majority of the tourism sector, um, look to draw on the skills in our manufacturing sector. In other jurisdictions around the region, where there are incentives, there's also a requirement that those beneficiaries also do business. So, for example, entertainment, they provide provision of soft furnishings, paintings and artwork and so on. What are the opportunities for generating and supporting local businesses? That is part of the performance of the industry for me. That if you can demonstrate that a significant percentage of your dollar remains in Barbados, then we are doing something, and it's for the economists to do some analysis of what is happening, in terms of the extent to which our tourism sector, particularly our hotels, are utilizing the services of persons in manufacturing. I'm not talking about calling in a furniture factory to repair furniture that you imported and then discovered that its longevity is,
Yes.
its life is limited. So I think at the end, and Marcia, you can signal to me when the time is up, 'cause I think you
Yes,
allocated
we
7.
are. You literally have 1 more minute.
Okay, so what I
Yes.
would want to suggest to you, Marcia, is that while we have seen a significant resurgence of tourism, I am very concerned that I am not sensing um, the presence of Barbados is missing in whether it is awards, because there are a whole set of things I could have pulled up, but as I said, I wouldn't have the time. But when you start to look at awards being given, as destinations, whether in terms of specific elements of the sector, whether it's restaurants, accommodations, promotion, Barbados is missing. And for me, that is a major concern, that we have not gotten back there, and far from getting back to where we were, there's a significant slippage. The last point I want to make has to do with the cruise industry and yachting. The cruise sector, um, we would have had a joint venture operation, which was public sector, represented by the Bridgestone Port Inc., as it is now, large corporate entities that were part of the operation, retail operations, etc., and public shareholders. That has come to an end. The government has taken over, as, via the port, and I am yet to see any indication as to how they're strategizing. Perhaps they'll say that's nobody's business, but I would want to hear what is happening. And finally, when we talk about tourism, we had we had a situation where, and I had some maps which I couldn't get a chance to incorporate in presentation, but we had a very successful initiative to build what was a small but very lucrative niche in terms of yachts. I saw some images of yachts in some harbors in the Grenadines and so on, and some images of yachts in Barbados. And I can tell you, where have all the yachts gone that we saw around this time of the year? They've gone to those islands. I've spoken about this before, but I don't have the time again, but we can look at that. But I
Yes.
really want to say that I am worried, particularly when we know the pivotal importance of the foreign exchange earnings and potential of a sector that seems to be losing its competitiveness and losing it very quickly.
Yes. Thank you so much, Miss McLean. Very well researched. And I saw a comment from Mr. Tony Paris, and he was complaining. His concern was the comparison of the countries, the time frame between the Caribbean islands. Some were from January to November, some were January to October, some were January to August. There, but majority were January to November. Barbados is though was January to November. So
Mhm.
it would just be the month of December, which obviously I'm sure Mr. Paris would know that that information then I'm sure probably would come at the end of December. But nevertheless, we can see the trajectory of the numbers. I think that is what Ms. McLean is saying. And what we're going to do, we will just hold that question. And I'm going to ask Mr. Tony Paris to come in and let if Mr. Tony Paris would message me at 236 7000. If he's not in Barbados, it's 246 236 7000. If we could get that number up on the screen. And Tony Paris, we would like to hear from you. It's good to hear we're all part of the opposition and with differing views. That's okay. I think we need to have it to trash it out and have a discussion. This is our country. So let's call in, and Ms. McLean, you'll have that opportunity once you're around at the end of the program to address that particular concern. Before we go to the next presenter, Mr. Franklin, can you take 2 minutes to just make a comment on Ms. McLean's presentation and if there's anything that, and literally 2 minutes because I have theory in the waiting in the wings right there.
Well, I'm used to good quality presentations from Maxine going back years, so I would be saying it over and over again, the same thing that very well presented thing. But there's some things that I want to help her along with, because she stayed away from being political. And there's no how being political. I can tell you why the our numbers have fallen. Our numbers have fallen because we have recruited incompetent friends and family as managers of the Barbados Tourism Marketing Company, or Marketing Inc. They call it. And I'll give you two examples of silliness that they came up with. Chefette, New York, and then we had the little island, Big Barbados, costing us a bundle of money. Forwards, I could, and then up to now, they established a committee to come up with another slogan This is more than a year now, and they haven't gotten the slogan off yet because we have recruited BLP stalwarts. We have a man in the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. Every time somebody said anything, he said, I will call Auntie Mia. You couldn't get anything out of him other than Auntie Mia, Auntie Mia, Auntie Mia. He was destroying the place, demotivating people, causing people to leave. And then they turn up with this man who they said he was a high flyer. A high flyer that comes to Barbados to work for 60,000 US dollars a year. High flyers in that industry earn millions in US. So I know from the outset he was not a high flyer. He's probably somebody's friend who was suffering and they want to give him a job. So we are not looking out for the best interests of Barbados. We are hoping that tourism will fix itself because who you put there can't fix it. Right? Then the issue with Liat. Barbados and St. Vincent got together to destroy Liat. And they don't have anything in place because we used to have a significant number of visitors coming from the Caribbean. Those visitors can't get here. And if you try to get here on some of these other airlines you have, to St. Lucia, $1,000 is cheaper to fly to Miami than it is to get to St. Lucia. And the government is not trying to regularize or fix these things. So what do you expect? You have people who don't know what they're doing, but they're doing it anyway. And as a result, but I'll tell you something. And then finally, they're probably banking on that $4.9 trillion that they expect to get. So they don't worry about the reparations. She's saying that we're going to get. So she's probably counting that. So she's not worried about the loss in tourism dollars. But trust me when they tell you, we're going to see a penny at 4.9 trillion. It's 4.9 trillion? Oh, dear Lord. Mad people running the asylum.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Franklin. And I know there's a lot coming in concerning tourism. A lot of messages are coming in. People are calling on WhatsApp. But I have someone here that is waiting, and if she would mute, we're going to try to get some calls in just before Mr. Gittins come in, and she's just going to give her thoughts, her general thoughts. So this is general thoughts on the year in review. I don't know if it's about tourism, but she's going to do that now. Can you go ahead, caller, please, Kathy?
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Can you hear her?
Hope everyone
Yes.
had a really great Christmas and a blessed 2024. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing
Yes.
you clear.
Okay. A general overview. My biggest issue through this year was the inability to have confidence in the government based on what they would have said. For instance, they will tell you that we don't have, it's not mandatory to have the ID. Then they're saying it is now becoming mandatory. They say one thing and then they change in their minds just days after. So we don't have the ability to really plan or structure our businesses or our lives based on our inability to trust what comes out of the government's mouth. It can't depend on it. That's my biggest issue. Because they're going to say one thing about the child protection bill, then it turns out to be something else. So it is very, very difficult to really going forward. Not being able to say, okay, this is the position the government is taking, we can bank on it, and changes do happen so quickly after you made one statement and consistently so in a lot of issues. That is my biggest problem. Depend on them, cannot trust them, cannot say stand on their word. So I don't think that this person can really structure the business properly if you cannot depend on what the government is saying.
Yeah.
You can't.
Point taken. Thank you so much, Kathy, for calling in. We're going to encourage others to call. And I will tell you, I'm going to put up the next time that we expect that we're going to welcome some calls. I'm going to put the time up, and that we're trying to do them in between the speakers and at the very end of the program, because we want to hear from you as well. Okay. Thank you so much, Kathy, for calling in. Very well said. Now, let me just introduce to you our next presenter, and I'm sorry, and that is Mr. Theory Gittens. And Mr. Gittens, and I love that I can call him Mr. Gittens. Mr. Theory Gittens is a university student, and he's studying computer science, web development, and he's a youth advocate. And he was on the program before, and everybody's been asking for him to come back. Even his teachers at UWI told me that they were so proud of him on the program. And I know Miss McLean will be very, very happy to hear you this evening. But you're going to talk about entrepreneurship and youth, and the development of youth in Barbados, and so on. Welcome, Mr. Gittens.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you. Yes, welcome, sir.
Good night to my fellow Barbadians and diaspora. It's a privilege to be here, and I hope that we can have a good session and a good show tonight. I'm very impressed with what Mrs. McLean gave in terms of her presentation, and it was absolutely fabulous. I learned a lot because I didn't realize that in June to September that we didn't have the numbers that we needed. So as a young person, I feel very informed as well, and I hope that person can learn from my presentation tonight.
Yes, sir. Well, go right ahead. We are waiting, to hear from you and to learn from what you are presenting. This is an educational show, so go right ahead, sir.
I'm just waiting for it to show up.
To come in. Okay, yeah, it's going to show up just about now once we get settled here. Yes, yes. Okay, there should be there.
It's take,
Ah, there it is.
it's
There it
taking a while.
is.
It worked last time.
Yes,
Oh,
it should
it's
be
up.
there right now.
Okay,
It's
great,
there.
excellent.
Yeah.
Um, all right, great. Start from the beginning. All right. So good night, everyone. My presentation tonight is entrepreneurial opportunities for the youth in Barbados. Creating multiple sources of revenue is the key to our future. My presentation tonight is not a quantitative one; it's more of a qualitative one. As Mom spoke to us, and told us that we needed to review the year, I basically said to myself, "What would what would I like to review tonight?" And to me, we don't pay a lot of attention to the entrepreneurs in our society, especially those in the youth category. So it's absolutely imperative tonight to at least show them some respect and appreciation. I'm not able to show every single entrepreneur that is doing great things in our country, but I just pointed out three individuals that are looking at issues that we face today here in Barbados and how they are trying to be a change for the country. So my first slide, as I said before, topics of discussion: digital services opportunities, technological development opportunities, designing for exports, solution to improve the food growth process. And those are the 4 points that we're looking at. Because as I said before, the individuals that I will be looking at are individuals who have created solutions to these problems. Not only that, I'll be looking at other opportunities in addition to it that persons in my age group or even older can venture into. So the first one, digital services. Working remotely from multiple companies allows greater income generation. You can work from home. You can work from anywhere. Hours are flexible depending on contractual agreements. You can explore other business and employment ventures while you work. And that's a great thing because it allows the individual to expand their horizons and be able to, bring in more income. Yes, we know we are having a serious cost of living situation in our country, but the only way to realistically solve it is not being dependent on one source of income. We're in a day and age that we need to adapt. We need to survive through thinking out of the box and finding ways to utilize our other skills, because a person is not just, for example, an accountant. They may have other artistic skills that they can utilize, just for example. So, how it benefits the country. Given the population per capita of Barbados, an individual may be able to generate the income of two or more individuals, which as a result will allow for greater disposable income. As I just said, in a household or typical household, most Bajans may be a mother, father, or they may be a nuclear family or even an extended family. And if we can say that, given a sample size of, we say, three adults in the family who are the income bringers, they may be able to bring the income of six. It may not be as the same. Sorry, it may not be the same amount that they are generating from their primary income, but is an additional disposable income, allowing for greater economic activity as well. Continuing, digital services can be an additional industry to tourism, allowing our economy to expand. And as I said before, it is imperative for us to utilize our digital mark. And when I say digital mark, I mean that I may be here in Barbados, but I don't have to just be a consumer. I can be an actor of the digital and global economy, whereby I can bring in more money for me, for my family, for my country. So that's how it benefits our country, because if we are bringing in more money through services, whereby as a small island we cannot necessarily bring in a lot of money through productivity with respect to manufacturing, it allows for what? Our economy to expand and the foreign exchange to grow. And if that is the case, then certain stipulations or policies can be put in place to ease the country. Persons speak about the government making certain policies that are not um, favorable for a lot of individuals, but we as the society and the civilization and the civilians in our country must play our part as well. Startways. This is an organization that was embraced by our government, and what it is great. It's basically saying that if you, as an individual, want to work from home, or even you're working at a office or you're working from wherever you want, you can utilize your skills and work for work for companies in the United States and Canada, which is an absolute amazing opportunity. Why? Because if you prove to these companies that you are a great employee or even a great contractor, they may be able to say, look, I can vouch for this person. He or she can visit my country, or he or she can actually work in my country. Yes, it may be counterintuitive for the Barbadian mission, but at the end of the day, it's great benefit to the diaspora, because, as I said before, it's all about creating value for our economy. Continuing, this is an article written by Barbados Today, and just to gloss over the article, they're basically saying that in 2024, Celeste Foster, she is the director of operations for Startways. She basically said that their goal is to get 1,000 young people to be trained and start to work through Startways, which is a great initiative. So I hope that the Barbadian populace can hold them to this goal, and we'll be able to actually start to see the benefits of this union between Startways and the government of Barbados, especially that of the people of Barbados. Continuing, technological development opportunities. A lot of individuals are not technological savvy, right? But we live in a day and age that it is easy to create value through technology. Let me explain. Why you why the youth should get into technological development. Coding courses are free and accessible. Yes, we know that if you want to do a course such as accounting or other um, certified courses, you have to go to a accredited university or accredited organization. But with coding, that's not necessary. A lot of countries and companies are taking persons on the ability that they can pass the interview process. Once you know the knowledge that is necessary to create applications or do your job, right? With that being said, it allows the opportunity for an individual to not necessarily go through the university route, but go straight into the job creation route, especially that of the entrepreneurial perspective, right? So, why, as I said before, why should the youth get into technological development? Coding courses are mostly free, as I said before, accessible via YouTube. There are apps and softwares that can help to make your idea a reality faster. The country's public and private sectors have many problems that require digital solutions. And we can look at what was spoken before, so what's spoken of before with respect to the presentation. That's a problem and it needs solving. So one of the solutions that can be implemented is a technological based solution. Continuing, education as a catalyst. And the reason I'm going towards education is because there's an individual in our country, a wonderful young lady, who created a solution to a problem that was faced from COVID till now. And looking at the points I'm trying to bring across here in this slide, it is a catalyst. And if you want to grow in anything, you have to continue to learn. That is granted. And given that now today our government is saying that they want to improve education or reform education, I believe that this individual has taken the problem and tried, or even if you say implemented a solution, a plausible solution to the problem. So I will introduce Private Caribbean Study Goals. This company was created by its CEO, Jasmine Green, whose mission is to create a productive online space for students to be supported in their efforts of achieving CXC and CAPE success. Dream big and set goals, set achievable goals, whether it's academic success, personal growth, or community engagement. Establishing clear objectives provides direction and motivation. While explore, while ex, sorry, we'll explore effective goal setting strategies to propel you towards success. And this is one of the mission statements of Private Caribbean Study Goals. I took this as a direct quote from them because to me they are a company, and Jasmine, the leader, is a company that is trying to prove what I just said. Technological development is absolutely necessary for the future of Barbados, especially solving our problems, private or public. So this is the website. This is the homepage, and as you can see in the corner, and you can see the different headers as well. You, her company looks at the timetable, giving the persons or the students structure. It has reviews from the students, so there's not something that's just out there and it's not credited. Students actually have said that they enjoy the program, and it's volunteer based. So the teachers are actually students. It's students teaching students. So looking at that, it is a sustainable model, and it's not only my own opinion or best opinion, but it's one that has been invested by a venture capital organization called Firehood. And in the next study, you'll see that Jasmine won a $25,000 prize this year. And as I said before, it's not my own opinion. It's been approved by an organization that is accredited. She won the prize, and currently is looking at investing the money into her business. But it just shows as young people and any young person who's listening right now and who have heard what I said before, you can do this. Using technology, you can create anything you want. We live in a digital age, young or old, you can create anything you want. So just take Jasmine as an example of the potential or the possibilities for you. Continuing, a lot of persons today have feared the rise of artificial intelligence. And the reason I brought it up is because given that we are a small island developing state, some person may say, well, AI is going to take over and it's going to stop us from getting digital jobs or even certain jobs. That may be the case. But just like in America or other countries, mining was once one of the biggest industries in the world. I mean, it still is at a certain point. But coal mining, being more specific, has died. Why? Because no matter what industry you look at, there are going to be industries that survive forever or for a long period of time, and there's industries that are going to evolve. And I believe as a Caribbean region, as a Barbadian diaspora more specifically, we must take into consideration what is going on. We must embrace AI. And one of the major AI companies right now is ChatGPT. It's taken the world by storm, and it's helped persons to increase their productivity immensely. And no matter what you look at, you can use it for the benefit of yourself. And I'm going to show you an example. As I said before in my prior slides, you don't have to be a coder necessarily to learn to code. But even though you may not be able to code, they have different applications to help you, provide you with the ability to earn more money, create your ideas, right? So, with that being said, I look at the benefits of AI. Um, AI allows you to create, as I said before, create and and builds the applications so that you can turn them into reality and make money. But how can you use it to benefit yourself? And my points here, it's all about prompting. You can't just say create an app for me. It's going to say what exactly you want, or it may give you a different response. Granted that you have to know what you're doing. You have to correctly prompt it. You have to give it clear and precise examples or details. Kind of understand, or as much as possible, understand the subject information. And if you can, or I would suggest that you do, research how to use it, or research the subject that you want to implement. Right? It's applicable to technology. It's applicable to persons who do writing tasks. It's applicable to everyone in this world, right? Especially those who live here in Barbados. Yet, granted that, I'm going to show you an example. So, most individuals here or across the diaspora who are listening do not know what is MERN or model view control is. But just to show you, you have to be very specific. I can't come and say, as I said before, create an app for me. I said create a MERN model view controller app for a media system in Express.js. Granted that, it gave me code. I can't show you all the code because that would take forever, but it gave me a lot of code. And I hope that the diaspora could trust that and what I'm saying. It gave me a lot of code. It showed me the information it would need to create a UI, the user interface. It gave me the code for the database. It gave me the code to start the project. And once you know the information, as I said before, or you research the information, even getting a mentor to help you, you'll be able to create applications. But if you are not interested in going through that whole process, there's also the app builder process, which is done by Flutterflow. And if you can see in the corner, it says AI generated project. And this is amazing. It's actually improving all the time. So it's not going to be something that's just going to be broken, or not to the highest level. It's to the highest level. It's to the highest standard. So you can just pull and drag different parts of the application and put it where you want it to go. And then you have the ability to connect to your database. Everything is simple. You just have to research tutorials, just like if you were using Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel for those who are old or young, and you can start to build your own applications. And some person may say that, well, if that's the case, would it not affect those who are developers? No. As I said before, coal mining was once one of the biggest industries in America and also the world. But if we do not evolve, even those who are in the software industry, if we do not evolve, then how can we grow as a small island developing state? We can't. We need more individuals using their intellect, because a lot of Barbadians have skills, but one thing for sure, all Barbadians have a high intellect. And granted that, and not only that as well, we have the ability to create at a high level. Prime example, the monument that was created next to Parliament. That is an example of high creativity, just to show what we can do as Barbadians. And given that as well, I believe in the digital space we can create the same results. More Barbadians creating these results can allow for us to generate more income. Continuing, another way for persons to use technology to generate income is e-commerce. If you do not want to create applications, you're ready to go. Applications are ready and websites. out there that you can just place your products out there and grow and earn income. So to elaborate my points, through services such as Shopify and Etsy, individuals can set up their own digital shops. Secondly, items sourced from manufacturers or homegrown for export can be made available to the global market. This is a great opportunity for all Barbadians to explore, as the global market is large and has many opportunities through the internet. As I said before, this is an example from my next slide of what the setup looks like. And as you can see, this individual has a large user base, but you can have a large user base as well. This is not my account, if anyone was wondering. This is a person who is just sharing their experience with the world. So just to show you for evidence that you can do it as well. Continuing, I would like to give homage and hope everyone can pay attention to this young lady, a brilliant young lady. She's been doing this for 5 years. Her name is Melissa Ali. And what she's doing is basically creating value through tradesmen, through using her eye for design and the ability of a lot of our individuals who go to the polyclinic and other um, certified workshops and mentors to create value for our people and for the global market. So this year, I'm not mistaken, recently, in November, sorry, she was on CBC and spoke about creating her first furniture line. And she mentioned in her interview that person may say that, well, it may be expensive to create furniture here in Barbados, but it's also very expensive to import it, which was a great point. I've heard in the food spaces that we should buy local, but I think in this space as well, we should buy local with respect to furniture. Right. Continuing. This is her working with one of the tradesmen. Right. Melissa is a great entrepreneur. Given this, we can see that she engages with the individual to create high value. Most persons who are CEOs or in businesses are not hands-on, but persons such as herself, young persons, are being hands-on with their product, are being involved in the process and being respectful to their workers. That has to be commendable. That has to be recognized because it gives young persons, young tradesmen, the job or the opportunity to create a value for their work to be adored by the world. Continuing, this is her website. I hope persons will be interested in going and look at it for themselves. Next slide. Right. So I could not finish my presentation without talking about the food crisis. And given this, I will show an individual who is trying to be a positive member of the agricultural society. The food crisis, the cost of food goods have increased due to a lack of local sustainable food growth and imports. Most arable land has been designated to sugarcane production, as we all know, and many Bajans are fed up with um, this current situation. Many young people as well have lost interest in being a part of the agricultural sector. The government spoke about Guyana and us having a food corridor, which was referenced on um, the Barbados Broadcasting Corporation news reports. This is all well and good, but we are not seeing the results. To me, this is theoretical, and I hope in the future, in 2024, as this is a review of 2023, it would manifest, and we would realize that it's about time that we either find other uses for sugarcane, or, which is more important, creating and planting valuable products to reduce the food cost. And I hope that would be the goal for 2024. We will start to see it, as I said before, manifesting. But there are young persons who, regardless of the social norm of our age group, who are trying to be a part of the change. As I said before, the individual here is Brian Durant. His farm is Green Haven Farms, and he won an award by the Seed program, which is sponsored by, as you can see there, First Caribbean. And when he won this award, it was very interesting because he took a technological approach to farming, which across the world is being done, but here in Barbados it is minimal. And persons such as himself must be recognized and respected for their efforts. Continuing, you can see here the article is written by Sharia Braffet. I hope persons will go and read it and pay some homage and respect to young Brain. And if you see him, just give him a good word of encouragement, because a lot of young persons just need that. Yeah, you're doing good. Keep it up. How can I help? They just need that just to keep them going. Some honorable mentions. 10 Habitats is an organization that helps young people and other young developing business organizations to grow in their own right. The National Transformation Initiative is helping as well. We cannot ignore them. Yes, we speak about the bias of the government, but we also must look at the persons who are trained, as they have programs with respect to financial literacy, personal money management, all on their website, and it's free. So that has to be commended. Every year, the $20 challenge goes into secondary schools and provide individuals with the opportunity to face, I wouldn't say near poverty, but I would say having a minimal amount of money and creating value, which is commendable. Mr. Executive takes young men and shows them the roots of what is necessary to be a gentleman and a potential CEO. The Barbados Entrepreneurship Fund is well spoken for. It tries. It goes out there and gives us opportunities. We have to commend them. Yes, as I said before, we speak about the bads or the ill wills of the government and the government institutions, but we must recognize good as well. And finally, the Barbados Trust Fund Limited, another great organization. It provides young people and other age groups with the opportunity to grow wealth, to generate income for their families. To conclude, I hope everyone took something from my presentation and it was clear and concise. But to me, in this review, I don't want to leave out any other organization or young person. But given the time that I was given, I couldn't speak about everyone. So noting that, I commend every young entrepreneur out there who is doing the positive thing, the honest thing, and looking for work in them own self and providing work for others. That has to be commended. And I hope Barbadians all across the island can come and say to them, you're doing good. Because we see a lot of negatives on social media saying, oh, the young people this, young people that. But I don't hear any commending of these young persons as much as possible, not even in the YouTube comments. And I can say this personally because I read the YouTube comments. I don't miss any of the CBC or Nation News videos. I always pay attention to what's going on in my country. So being a young person, I hope that y'all can speak to these young persons and give them a word of encouragement. Yes, we all in Barbados don't have the money to invest. That is the case, but at least a positive word can go far. I thank you for listening to me, and I hope it was interesting and also entertaining, and not only that, informative. Have a good night. Most importantly, have a productive 2024. Thank you.
Marcia, you're muted. I'm not hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I was saying that I love the spin that you took on this. You reviewed what the good things that were happening, and the young people. Your review was about youth in entrepreneurship, those who are actually doing the work and are actually entrepreneur and doing well. And you mentioned Start Wise, which they're hoping to benefit 1,000 young persons. And the interesting thing is, this is all most of this is through technology, right? Which is fantastic. The private Caribbean study goals. I'm gonna check them out because I have CXC students. And Mela Design Limited. Congratulations to her. And Green Haven Farms. That is amazing, amazing, amazing. And we are just really, really honored to have had you here tonight. and then the other government agencies that are doing a fantastic job in your estimation for the youth in Barbados in terms of entrepreneurship. And I think Mr. Gittens take a bow, a very interesting
Yes.
way of looking at things and in giving accolades, reviewing what the not what the government is doing, but looking squarely at what our youth are doing, and we want to celebrate you for that. Mr. Franklin, is there anything that you want to say? Give us 2 minutes, and then we go on to Miss Corbin. Oh,
Muted.
You hear me now?
yes.
I'm not going to take 2 minutes. I'm just going to say, very shortly, you wouldn't need me on the show anymore, Marcia. Look the talent we have. You see, but I will still come on ever so often. If you can keep it up with people of this caliber and this talent, this is what we want. These are the future of Barbados, not the politicians who develop the spills or the spoils. You know, I am happy. This is the second time I've seen him on this show, and I've been impressed both times. The first time was not a fluke. It shows that these young people have talent, and they can only go far. I listened to his presentation, and I'll tell you something. I didn't know what a lot of things he was talking about, to tell you the truth. You know what I mean? So he educated me there too. I am not going to be one of those fellas that pretend I know everything, even though I do at times. But um, he showed me. I didn't know about all these little agencies that they have, you know. And I was looking for furniture. Now I know where to look, and I'm looking for design because I have a particular space that I want to use, and the furniture I want going down. They're too big,
Mela
So now,
Design Limited. Mela Design Limited.
yeah, I think I have it. So I'm grateful to him personally, and I'm grateful to him because of the depth and the quality of what he produced tonight on the show. Thanks very much, Jerry. You can only go far if you
Thank you, sir.
continue like this.
Marcia, can you
Thank you,
indulge
sir.
me once 1 minute, please?
1 minute, because
Because I
Miss
know
Gittens.
I really have to say to Thierry, thanks a lot. And I want to contact you. You may not know this, but the seed program at CAFE was started by myself. I've been very much involved in entrepreneurship, and I'm currently working on an initiative with a Caribbean person who has settled in Barbados with lots of experience. And the areas that you touched on are some of the things that we're talking about. So I will share that with you. That's less than a minute, Marcia.
Yes, but it is good that you have said that, because I said to myself, I wonder if this is a program that Miss McLean was working at university. So see, you're in the presence of greatness, and I think it's Green Haven Farms that's doing the C program and doing an
Yes, he
amazing
won.
job. And Miss McLean, we want to say kudos to you as well, because you have invested time and money in young people in this country. And look at this theory. You're meeting the person who's made Green Haven Farm so great. Look at that.
That's me.
This is awesome. Thank you so much, Terry. And Terry, we'd love for you to stick around, because I believe that people may have questions to you at the end. And if you can, we would appreciate that very much.
No problem. I'm gonna charge my laptop. It has charge, but it goes down. So I'll charge my laptop and just wait. So then I'll be in the background. But thank you
Yes,
again,
sir.
and I hope
Yes, sir.
this has
Thank
been
you
a
so
great.
much. Thank you, Mr.
That's,
Gittens. Very well
that's,
presented. Thank you. Thank you.
that's
Okay. So we are moving ahead. I'm telling you this. I love the way he did it. Instead of looking at what the government did, he looked at what the youth were doing in the country. He reviewed the youth and celebrated the youth, and I think that was I love that. Well, we have now education, and we are going to look at education. And this young lady that is going to be presenting to us this evening, she said to me, Marcia, I have to do a report on the education. On education in Barbados for 2022 to 2023. So she was the first one who put this idea in my head. And so I want to welcome her, and I'm just trying to get her bio because I really want to read the parts of her bio. And you know, with this the technology, sometimes when you're ready for them, they're closing up on you. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask you guys to share. If you've not shared, I was waiting on a call. Someone said that they were calling, and I didn't hear the call, which would give us a good transition. But I think in the meantime, we will just, you know, we'll just take all the calls at the very end then. And while I wait on my my just before I give the introduction of this young lady, I want to talk to us about what is on our screen. And the topic is, what it says is, everything is about to change. Everything is about to change. And this is concerning the IDs, where all of us, the whole 273 of us that's on tonight, we're inviting you to a protest march. And this has to do with the digital IDs, okay? With the digital IDs. And this march is a march for data privacy and protection from hacking, decentralizing of control of data, consent to share our information, transparency and accountability in data management, controls that reinforce our basic rights and freedoms. And the flyer, it says, in Barbados, cyber attacks on QEH, electoral records, commercial banks, credit unions, businesses, and individuals are now common. And so we are very, very concerned about this ID, the Trident ID. And if you have these concerns that are here on the screen and on this poster, whether you have pinned or you didn't, whether you have gone to do the ID, accepted your ID, and you didn't pin your ID, wherever you fall. If you are concerned about these issues, we're asking you to come out on Saturday, January 13th at 10 a.m. Okay, at Massacre Park, our old stomping ground. We're getting back out there, right? So please get ready to come on. Okay, I saw that someone was calling, but seeing that you left, um we're not going to entertain that call at this time. We're going to do it towards the end of the program, so I hope you will stick around. But Mrs. Rosaline J. Corbin is a trained educator, adult educator, facilitator, as well as a trainer of trainers. She's also a cross-cultural trainer, having worked as a regional cross-cultural trainer with the U.S. Peace Corps in this capacity. She began her teaching career in 1974 and has been involved in adult education and training since 1982. So she's very, 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 very well capable to be given this presentation this evening. She's trained to facilitate a range of training experiences utilizing the experiential interactive learning model. Her experience includes training of trainers, cross-cultural training, gender and development, human resource development, stress management, youth and development, as well as adult literacy. Rosalind describes her teaching or training experience as having a wide reach for early childhood education, primary and secondary, post-secondary, and adult via prison education. In addition, Ms. Corbin is particularly competent in developing training and instructional materials for target groups, and is trained to produce distance learning materials, manuals for adult trainers. And we could go on and on. I'm sure I've convinced you of the caliber of this young lady, Mrs. Rose Corbin. Welcome, welcome, welcome once again, ma'am, to the Marcia Week Show. You are muted, and we're not hearing you. while she is getting herself ready, she is going to be talking about education and giving her review on education for 2022 and 2023. So let's see if we can hear her. I believe that they are just working out the kinks of their the technical arrangements there. Sherlock is saying, excellent presentation, Barbados Youth of Today by Mr. Gittins. Yes, 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 yes. I mean, I just love it. I just love it. Um, yeah, great job, Mr. Gittins. Thank you. Yes, yes. And someone says, it is sad to see so much land growing grass instead of crops and the loss of so many fruit trees and variety of trees. All forms of agriculture does not need to be labor intensive. Technology helps. Yes, technology helps. So that's what he was talking about with Green Haven Farms. Okay, there's a call that's coming in. Let me see. Good evening. Okay, so you would have to turn off the good evening. Please turn off your computer or your phone. Good evening. And who am I speaking with?
Hello, hi, Marcia. This is Edwin.
Oh, Mr. Price, a regular roadside Parliament contributor. Good night, sir. And
Good night
welcome
to you.
welcome to the Marcia Week show. Can you give us your view or your review of Barbados 2022 to 2023?
More than I say, good night to Casual. Good night to the rest of the panel as well. My first say, I do admire the show because it enlightens Barbados. So a lot of stuff that's going on. A lot of Barbadians with stuff that's going on around the country. So kudos to you, Marcia, and your panel. Now, to me personally, 2022 to 2023 was a very tough year. Still is, because I still have a few more days left. Or one day, I must say, left in this year. But it was hard for me personally, the Barbadians. In saying that, because the cost of living is what I always stressed on in Barbados. Is that I think Barbadians are basically at a breaking point in terms of salary to the prices of stuff, including bills, etc. Actually, create the amount of money that the average Barbadian works for, and then you can still look at if this person is renting instead of living at home and stuff like that. I have to put gas in the car. I can't find words to say what is going on. A lot of Barbadians right now are struggling in this society, but they're not coming out to say. But me personally, it was very tough for a lot of Barbadians. The average middle class, I don't think I believe that is being eroded right now personally, because they're finding themselves in the bottom of the rest of the if you want to say poor, but I don't want to say that, the lower class. I don't even like to mention the word class because to me that's like slavery. But the middle class is being eroded. If you look at what is going on in Barbados in terms of, I just sit down the other day and just gave to myself when I was a youngster. Public transportation in terms of yellow vans and stuff were in immaculate conditions. But if you look at it now, people are there like dilapidated. These vans are awful. That's just a typical example. People driving around with tires weren't changing. You see people, and then you go around to homeless people. People are all over the street. It's unbelievable. But the government keep on talking about borrowing, and popping up reserves. But I said to myself, what are reserves used for in Barbados right now? For the merchants. The average Barbadian uses reserves probably indirectly as in terms of merchants bringing in stuff. I mean, they'll buy the stuff. You need foreign exchange to get the stuff here. But the average Barbadian probably just uses reserves in terms of buying stuff online or probably traveling. But they need to go down and stop trying to profit the economy, or they have to do it, but instead of concentrating on that all forefront, give it the average Barbadian. Barbadians need some help in terms of infrastructure in the community. Barbadians need help. national insurance is going up from January. More burden on the average Barbadian. More cuts from his salary. But yet the Prime Minister is all about the place, talking about this and digitization and ID cards, things that are irrelevant to the average Barbadian. So to me personally, 2022 to 2023, I know that they say they're recovering from COVID, using that as an excuse. But I think they need to help the average Barbadian. We need some help. I might be able to help myself in terms of my salary, but there's a lot of people out there who are struggling. And Casual probably could attest to that. I work on the west side of Barbados, right? And I'm going to tell you this, Marcia. A lot of Barbadians just go around with this narrative that, oh, things are hard around the world. Yeah. Things was hard for Barbadians for a very long time now. But it's gone to breaking point now. Barbadians are struggling for a while in terms of, as I said, Barbadians is a pride in industry, but a lot of Barbadians have pride now. They don't want to come out and say that they're struggling. So basically, a lot of stuff is going on in Barbados in terms of cost of living, and it goes right down the line. I work on the West Coast, right? And I hear people who are millionaires ask me the question, how do you all survive here in Barbados? I always see that Barbadians are some people who are very strong. They fight. They try to fight through it. But I know it's going to be a time that they can't fight any longer because the money they have in the pocket cannot sustain their livelihood. But this is what the Prime Minister and her cabinet needs to address. Instead of what we're all talking about water changing from sewage water and all these. Barbadians need to survive. We need to survive. We need to have to get something done with the cost of living. Stop helping or profiting merchants and pushing us to one side. Every Barbadian, whether you're B, D, F, or G, I know that there's these political, as you want to say, folks who talking about F or man, talking about government, he's a D. I'm not a D or B. But I'm talking to the average Barbadian out there. We need help. The Prime Minister needs to come to the forefront and tackle the issues in society. Now it's going to get more violence, more crime, and it's going to escalate. It doesn't take a genius or somebody with a degree in some big psychology or something. It's right in front of your eyes, but there's him a horn and dabbling away from it. But Marcia, as far as I can think, I don't want to take on more show. I can go on and on.
Wow.
But you have a wonderful night. You're on the panel and keep on doing what you're doing into 2024.
Thank you.
Barbadians will be elected to what's going on in the country.
Thank you so much for calling. But very well said. Very well said. I would love to cut that piece out of the show and send it around because I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I know Mr. Thing want to say something, but you're going to hold that point until the very end, okay? Because thank you so much, Mr. Price, for calling. Thank you. Yes. And we're going to entertain some more calls at 9:30 tonight. And as we want to close out hearing from the people. Well, we have the young lady, Mrs. Corbin, is here with us, and let's hear her beautiful voice. Good night. Oh no, we're still having the issue. Still not hearing you. Still not hearing you. Still not hearing you just yet. What is happening? All right, but guys, I'm going to turn off her camera. Oh no, okay, that's my camera I turned off. If you turn off your camera while while we work on it for you, that would be great. Well, that's her loving husband there, at her side. Making sure that it works. Yes, and he's working on that. And they will, as soon as you say hello and we can hear you, we're going to jump right into it. Well, as you can see, Mr. Franklin, we do have some time. So I'm going to ask anybody else who wants to call in. I'm going to put the number up again, and you can call it. Making a regular call, I think, is better because in case WhatsApp comes in, then another call comes in, so you're not bumped off, okay? So feel free to call in and we will give you the opportunity. But while we wait on those technical issues to be worked on, Mr. Franklin, what are your thoughts? You just heard Mr. Price. Is there anything that you want to comment? Any comments you want to make on what Mr. Price has just shared? Okay, you are muted as well.
Yeah, I
Somebody,
tried that. Yes, I thank you. I always mute to make sure that we don't get any feedback.
yes.
But Mr. Price is speaking about things that I know about because I remember a day I went down to Sunset Crest and I went into the Massey store down there. They didn't have any white light or anything like that there, but um, I went in and I saw some visitors and they looked approachable. So I just said, hi, how you doing? Hope they're enjoying this day. And the guy said to me, how do you guys live here? And we started a whole conversation because the few little things that he's looking at, and he, obviously, if he can afford a kind of Barbados, he's got a few dollars, and he is saying, but these prices are ridiculous, and they are coming from overseas and seeing our prices here, and that's not going to encourage them to come back because
Mhm.
some of these people come and they prepare their own meals. You know, they might eat it
Yes.
once in a while, and think about they come for the experience. And when you and I know personally because some of them leave the stuff in the rooms when they leave. You know, they don't take it with them, and I know people who get it and stuff. You know, but they are concerned about the cost of living in Barbados and saying that it is almost impossible to live here. So, gentleman wasn't wrong, and he's also talking about what is happening in this society because we are basically leaderless. You know, we have a person who's going around the place, um, trying to ingratiate herself with everybody else except the people of Barbados because when she first came in, I would be a liar if I said that she wasn't popular. Half of that popularity is gone or more because people are seeing. You know, you can fool the people some of the time, but you can't fool them all the time. Well, they're getting that. Only the die-hard Barbados Labour Party people are still saying, "Oh, she is great," and a lot of our people are suffering. Mind you, you can because all of our people can't get checks from Clark and Clark Associates and stuff, you know. So they have to suffer with the little bit of money they're getting. And Thierry, good point he made. He said, "Well, you need basically be saying you need another income because one really is not cutting it." No, civil
Hmm.
servants didn't have a real increase since um, the 90s. You know, because the cost of living, the increase that they get didn't match with the cost of living. It would have matched with cost living if they got the 21% or the 23%. But again, those unions were all BLP unions. So then they decided to settle for 4.5. So because the government has tied up the country, making friends and not trying to do the work that they're supposed to be doing, rather than do what they're supposed to do, they try to eliminate the opposition or anybody who might be opposed to them. No, the easiest thing to do is do the right thing. And if you do the right thing, I would not have anything to talk about every night when they come on here. Because I would be saying, oh, they're doing the right thing. I'm going ahead and say so all the time. They got a whole big choir to say that for them. But every night I can find things to tell you about that's going on in this country that are wrong. And that is our biggest problem here. We have too many people at the top or near the top, at the very top, who have no experience in business. They've never run a snorkel and cart, but they want to run a government. And they find it impossible. And they believe when they walk around the place telling you, oh, our reserves are at this level. And they're talking about growth. You don't borrow growth, but the numbers look good if you don't put the minus sign that they show that you borrowed. And this is where our country is right now. We need enlightened leadership. We need leadership that knows what they're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're still waiting. We're still waiting. On Mrs. Corbin, but I'm seeing. I called. There's someone who had called earlier, and we're trying to reach them again. Is this Mr. Paris?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Mr. Paris. Well, you're live with us on the Marcia Week show, And I know you had a question for Miss McLean when she gave the presentation. So I'm just going to ask you to go ahead and make your comments, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. The situation is that I understand where Mrs. McLean is coming from. I actually, we are both the same age. And
that means you're young.
yes, very young. Yes, but I like her presentation. I guess my first job after leaving high school foundation, I worked for the statistical department in Barbados. And I look at numbers, and you can make numbers say anything you want. It is a difficult thing to do a comparison, I find personally, when you're not comparing apples to apples.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I understand a true picture of what has happened in 2023 will not be available until I would figure at this point, February, March next year, right? And then there can be a truer comparison done across the region. And I look forward to that when it does happen. Everything else with regards to her presentation was very good. I enjoyed Mr. Gittins as well. One thing I will say is that I wish that the government that we have right now would have followed through with her initial offer to assist entrepreneurs in this island. She has not done that, and it is a serious detriment to the island, in my opinion. I lived in Canada for almost 4 years. I moved back here at the end of 2019, and I'm sorry. I had hoped that when I returned, as an example, the customer service would have been improved, but it seems to me have gotten worse. Our ministers now seems to me to have become the transshipment point for the region, and there's a great deal of incompetence within the government. I don't know what we can do short of getting rid of them at this point.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for calling, Miss McLean. I'll keep you on the line. Miss McLean, is there anything that you would want to say to Mr. Paris? You said
I would keep, well, he's as young as I am, and that means we're not so young. We're as young as we feel. But I just want to say in relation to the numbers, because as he was speaking and when you first mentioned it, I looked at it. And essentially, for example, when you look at the numbers for the BVI in terms of Caribbean stopovers, where you were making comparisons, let me use the comparisons between, because they have differences there between 2023 and 2019. Now, if Turks and Caicos says to me that in 2023 they had 595,000 tourists, and 503, and in 2019 435, 579, and the percentage change was 37. The period was January to November. The important thing there for me is that they are comparing January to November each year. Now, of course, if you look at Jamaica's statistics were from January to July. So in terms of what I would call an internal comparison, it would be inconsistent if they were comparing January to November for 1 year and January to July for another. But if they're comparing that period each year, the difference would say to me that if Jamaica was from January to July saw that increase, what if you add on the additional months, you probably would see something else. So I think what you're concerned about is that we're not comparing the same periods for each. But what I'm looking at is the comparisons between two periods of time. So if you look at what you have here, if you're looking, as I said, in Jamaica, and January to July, you're making that comparison. So in other words, what happened in year one and what happened in year two, and what was the change? Even though, so I think in a sense it would be nice if we had all the numbers, but once there's consistency within, in relation to one country, that's one thing. What I see maybe a concern is that I would want to see a picture for, let's say, if it was January to December or January to September for everybody. But I think the important point is that when you look at 1 year and you compare the same period for another year, you're seeing those changes. So, for example, or let's look at Barbados, for example. Barbados goes January to November, which is almost the entire year. So if we took off numbers, like if we were comparing Jamaica and we took off the numbers from Jamaica was from, let me look at it again, January to July. If we took off August, September, October, November, those, in fact, you would notice that August is probably typically a crop over, so you might see a bump there. So in essence, our situation may look worse. So I don't worry too much about the comparison because we are looking at what happened in each individual jurisdiction. And so that kind of explains it. But I know you have to be careful when you use numbers, but I try not to use numbers to say what I want, but to simply say what they're saying. So I appreciate your concern, which means you're really looking at it and asking yourself, what am I really seeing with those numbers? But as I said, I'm seeing. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. McLean. The chart that you put out was not clear enough for me. I did not realize that you were comparing, as an example, January to November for each year. Right? It is. I didn't realize that. So that's
okay. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Mr.
Rose looks like she's ready. So
yes,
I hope so.
Thank you, Mr. Paris. We really appreciate that. And please keep the number handy. We want to hear from Barbadians. We all make up the opposition, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all. We need to speak up. All right?
Yes.
So God bless you, sir, and thank you for calling. It's a pleasure.
You're very welcome. You guys continue what you're doing.
Yes. Thank you, sir. God bless.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that's wonderful. Let's see if our wonderful, lovely Mrs. Corbin is ready. Good night, Mrs. Corbin. We want to hear.
Good night. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so happy that I have a voice now. Good evening, my friends. Good evening, my friends. Good evening, Maxine. Good evening, Marcia and Caswell and all the others who are here with us. It is always a pleasure. Now, I have no life now on these evenings that you're on, and I'm learning so much. Your presentation, as always, Maxine, informative, educational. And as I was listening to you, I remember, Maxine, when in the early days of gender studies, when it was new, when we would sit and try to understand it ourselves, and then we package it and package it so that others would understand without making it so difficult to follow and so gray, putting it in a gray area, but making it accessible to all. And this is what is troubling me as I review education, how it is not clear anymore. Things are so hidden or so contrived here in this country when it comes to information sharing and when it comes to treating our people as people who are intelligent, people who are informed, people who are educated. And so as I look, and I want to say good evening to all the others who are here with us online. Thank you for being with us. And as I attempt to review um, the year in education, I have come up with a report that leaves me not a very happy person. And I have taken on the role this evening as a parent receiving a report card from my child in whom I have made an investment in his education or her education. And I've made sacrifices. I have borrowed. So we are doing that analogy as how you would have responded to your child who brings home a report to you, like the one I am going to summarize and give to you in terms of the performance of education over the last months, over the last year. And I want to start out with, um, I don't know if Marcia still have that slide that young man, Mr. Gittins, presented. He was excellent. And I'm wondering if you could locate for us, if you still have it, that bit on education.
Yes,
What
we
he
will work on that while we work and get it up for you. So you
Yes,
can keep
what
going.
he has said about education, because it's coming from the future. And it is so interesting to see what he says about education reflects what I think and see education as. So here we go. And I want, as usual, to have my listeners participate. So get your pens and paper for me and write these grades, starting with excellent and outstanding. Excellent and outstanding. Very satisfactory.
Okay, so we're to have excellent on one, and then we have very satisfactory.
So we have excellent slash outstanding.
Okay.
Then we have very satisfactory,
Uh-huh.
fairly satisfactory,
Fairly satisfactory. That is third one. Yeah.
yes, and satisfactory.
Satisfactory. Okay.
The next one is needs improvement,
Needs improvement. Yes.
and the last one is poor slash not acceptable.
Poor
Poor
slash.
slash not acceptable. So
Yes.
you'll be grading with me so that I do not come across as being biased.
Mm-hmm.
And we would invite those in the chat to grade the performance as a parent receiving that report card. And so we are looking at education. I want to start with praise. I want to praise the teachers in our public primary, secondary schools who worked assiduously, demonstrating great perseverance and dedication to the students of our nation, many times under conditions not amenable and suitable for delivery of teaching and instruction. You, if they're teachers here, and they have earned and and deserve the holiday break. And I am telling you to rest up and return to the classroom and your charges energized with renewed commitment and dedication. Best wishes to you for the new year. I can't leave out the ancillary and support staff, the school meals workers, and others who also would have worked under similar strenuous conditions. On behalf of the Marcia Week Show, we want to say thank you. Now, I did say you worked under some conditions not amenable and suitable for teaching. And what were some of the strenuous conditions under which our teachers and others would have worked in the public primary and secondary school settings on a daily basis? And I think of the environmental plant issues that would have plagued many schools, some in the public that were brought to the public interest, and others because of, and Mr. Could speak to this, because of fear of being victimized or being scolded, because we realize we're in a system now where um, people are scolded for speaking out and are seen as weaponizing the system if they speak out. So we are going to speak to those few who would have spoken out on the conditions under which they taught our nation's children. And I believe that this is reflective of others that we may not have heard about. I start with St. Stephen's Nursery School that was reported in May to having to bear with unbearable stench. And I read in the press that the stench was like a combination of animal as well as human feces. Someone said lack of adequate furniture, etc. And that is St. Stephen's Nursery. We're after putting up with it for some time. It was the union stepped in and attempts were made to address. I don't know if fully resolved. The Lesterbourne Secondary School, you may recall, they too had environmental issues which brought on dizziness, respiratory issues, etc. We go on now to Alexandra School, flooding. Now this has been going on. It the beginning of September. Remember when there was the flooding? It was said that you almost needed um, boats and vessels to get you out of the school. That's Alexandra. We looked at Luther Thorn. That was very much in the press this term, in the public domain, where they had mice and bird droppings, mold in classrooms, structural issues which led to children being ill, developing fever, conjunctivitis, that's red eye, diarrhea, vomiting, wheezing. And it is only when the PTA and the parents complained, along with the teachers, to the media, the parents and the PTA brought it to the media in support of the teachers' complaints about the what was happening, and the parents and PTA particularly complained about the disappointment appointment with the Ministry of Education for poor communication. Then we looked at St. Paul's, which had rodent droppings and dead rodents at the premises. And we know about the ongoing Lawrence T. Gay environmental issues that we were told have been resolved, but then they come back. What is happening there? These are the conditions under which our nation's children have been attending school. Then we come on to St. John Primary, the latest, and how the announcement and the closure and transfers were handled. First, the environmental issues, how were they handled? And the subsequent closure and transfers, how these were handled. If I am correct in recalling, we heard from BUT, we heard from the MP Charles Griffith, the MP for St. John, in which the school is located, but he's not the Minister of Education. He spoke about the issues and the need to close the school given the environmental issues, the PTA on the closure. On occasion, we heard from the Deputy Chief, Joy Adamson, who spoke of the options um, for transfer in St. Philip and St. John, eventually looking at students will be going to Mount Tabor. First, they facilitated the interim classrooms at Messiah's house, the church, the Wesleyan church, and then they looked at more permanent transfer when it was said the school would be closed indefinitely. And Miss Adams, the deputy chief, spoke with the parents and the public on the transfer, where they be going. But we are still awaiting communication on this important matter from Minister K. McConney and Chief Education Officer Dr. Ramona Arsha Bradshaw. I was troubled by the suddenness of the news to the students and their emotional, the expected emotional response from them, the crying, uh, the fact that they will be separating without preparation. Many of them will be going to different places. Teachers themselves being separated, the uncertainty of what will be happening to them, having to leave friends and now making new friends at another school. And they would have gone through the trauma of home, remote learning with COVID, and now settling into an environment that was not conducive and that was causing them to be sick and now to be sent to transferred at such short notice. The fact that that school existed for 100 years, according to my research in the community, and so it would be affecting not only the teachers and the staff, but the vendors, the neighbors, generations who would have attended that school. And I am wondering, as a cross cultural trainer, the kind of preparation, pardon me, that would have been made for those children to transition into a new environment. I was very troubled by the crying and the weeping by the students as well as parents. I may be biased here, but I gave, not biased, I'm not biased, I'm giving that a failing grade. Unacceptable. That is unacceptable. That is poor. The handling of that situation at St. John Primary. Coming on, and may I comment here, there is a minister of education, there is a chief education officer, both of whom I believe in situations like this should be the ones in the forefront addressing this matter, not a PR communications consultant. I am tired of all this PR bluff that is going on and the PR narrative. It is not the role, neither the responsibility of a PR consultant to speak to these matters, given a press release. It is unacceptable. Poor grade. That is the bottom of the scale grade. Poor, unacceptable. Not even, as far as I know, the Government Information Service, a public service with paid persons to disseminate information of national importance. No, I have here written in my note. This is a no, no, no coming from me towards the Ministry of Education. And I hope going forward we would have less of this PR communication consultancy and we would have responses from those who have been appointed by the electorate to represent the interests of our schools and our children, as well as the chief education officer who is responsible for administering the education that is being offered. I had to pause to speak on that one. That is a no, no for me, and I believe for others. So we have looked at the environmental issues that have been plaguing our schools consistently and over the last term in particular that we have just completed. Moving on that, I was looking also at the handling and transferring or reallocation. You told me grade awarded not acceptable on the environmental issues, and there are more. But in the interest of time, we move on. My next uh, area that I'm looking at in this report card, someone said absolutely unacceptable. I'm looking at the handling or transferring of teachers and principals at the beginning of the new school year in September, where Mr. Franklin could speak to, has spoken many times when they gave that close to midnight call to teachers and principals, particularly that they would be transferred at that short notice to schools that there were to schools that they had not prepared for or were prepared for. Many of these principals, in particular, had already done their planning for the school year and had put systems in place. and it was so insensitive and unprofessional of the Ministry of Education and whomever handles that um, transfer, or letting teachers know that where they be assigned at that short notice, particularly principals. I have heard that there was some these transfers had some political underpinnings because um, these some of these principles were were not towing the line um, as far as partisan politics. They were not towing the line where um, there was a strong um, political representation on school boards, and therefore, when the principal would say, here is where the line is drawn, I manage the school, you manage the board, that this triggered transfers of this nature. And for some, it was seen as a punishment. This is a no no. You cannot have that kind of interference and have our administrators on the school plan, teachers, principals, senior teachers, afraid um, to conduct their work because of the whip coming down on them and being punished or transferred to schools where you say send them over there. Again, it's sending a message to that some schools are the punishment schools, some schools are the doors or the schools like government industrial schools where you get sent off to if you are not towing the line. And I agree with you, the handling of staff transfers, grade given, poor, unacceptable. And I thank Mr. Franklin for speaking out even before the other union responsible for education, like the BSTU, I think that's it, and the BUT, before they spoke out on behalf of, they spoke out after the fact. We could say we're seeing here such action was utterly ridiculous, totally unacceptable. Transfer of principals and teachers, grade awarded poor and unacceptable. Um, I will pause here to laud and give kudos to those persons who had to experience and endure this kind of unprofessional treatment by the Ministry of Education. I say thank you for responding as you did, given how they treated you. And one of these persons, I want to take time out. She doesn't know that I'm doing this, but she's the former acting principal of the Ellerslie School, who was sent to the Aline School, and who is now on pre retirement leave. A loss to the system, in my opinion, and that opinion of others with whom I would have spoken, who recognize and appreciate professionalism, the kind of professionalism she demonstrated. I want to say publicly, thanks. If the ministry does not say, I want to say on behalf of the parents and the children whom you would have assisted in your capacity as teacher at the St. Michael's School, head of department. These are good people whom the system has lost because of bad treatment. I am putting myself out there to say it. And I want to say thank you, Mrs. Austin, for your work at St. Michael's School. Thank you for your work as deputy principal at the law school, then as acting principal at the Ellerslie School, and in that last term of your tenure in the profession at the Allen School. And I want to say the same to the others in the service, teachers and principals who have retired this term. And I am hearing that though some of these persons are satisfied personally with what they brought to the system, many are leaving disappointed at at how education has taken a downward slide, and how they themselves have been treated. And I'm saying a poor grade to the Ministry of Education on the handling of the transfers. I want to move on also now to another um, area, outstanding area for me in this report. Just give me a moment to because I am editing on the interest of time. I want to look at the report on the budget for education. I am still searching for that budget for education in the budgetary proposal for 2023, and subsequently the budget for the what we have here, reimagining education in Barbados, a bright future for every child. You may recall that at one of the town hall meetings that I asked the question, what is the budget? Where is the budget? That I was surprised that the Prime Minister at the launch, and you know how we have spoken about the launch, that it was well staged, it was well, the narrative was there, it was glossy, it made well for um, a coffee table magazine. It had all of those features, but what was the substance behind it? And I asked the question at one of the town hall meetings, where is the budget? It's someone is saying here it's non-existent. And I said it was putting the the cart before the horse. We are deemed as weaponizing, we are deemed as pulling down sectors or ministries or work in this country. But we have to ask these questions. And I cannot give a satisfactory grade when you are undertaking something as important as this. And up to today, we do not know what is the budget. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from this recent IMF drawdown? We do not know. I don't know if you're satisfied, but I am not satisfied, and we are. I want to take this time out, however, to extend my appreciation, you know, to Dr. Ida Mae Denny, the director of the reform. I know of her commitment, her passion, her desire, her technical as well as practical skills in education that she would have brought to bear on the I call it concepts. I call it concepts. I do not see it as as they call it proposals. I hope it was there at the proposal. She did say money is not a problem. I heard that. And I asked her, and I want to still ask her, beyond all of the desire to transform education, tell us how it will be funded. Tell us how it would be funded. I if I do see any attempts at explaining this education reform, she would have made greater and clearer efforts to do so than the other key players in this process. We scarcely heard from the Minister of Education on it beyond a nice wrap up rallying speech at the end. And I want to say here my dissatisfaction as I review with how we were invited out to these town hall meetings. And then again, it was highly PR with PR persons directing and guiding and limiting our contributions. For me, that was a no no, a no no. The PR strategy. And I did realize too that there were in the town hall meetings that I would have attended, there was a strong partisan uh, not participation, but a partisan presence that could have, caused you to say, should I speak or shouldn't I speak? Because look who's there, look who's there. But I found that it was very much staged and controlled by those PR persons who acted as moderators at the town hall meeting, thus limiting your person's participation to the times given. All right? And therefore, I'm not satisfied with this. Go back to the drawing board. I know that they were rushing to get it through to cabinet by the end of the year. I would say go back to the drawing board and don't squeeze it in on us as many of the other decisions that have been made, national decisions that were squeezed through unnoticed by us. And then we wake up one morning, if we are aware or alert, or if we have persons like in this forum and other places to say it has happened. Go back to the drawing board with this one, please. I find it rather convoluted. I find that there are labyrinths that we have to weave through, a lot of unanswered questions, which the persons who have conceptualized it have difficulty in unraveling and presenting to us in a way that is not only palatable. I don't want something that's palatable. I want something that will work in the interest of our children and our children's future. Now, two other things that I want to speak to is the fiasco of that drill at the Springer Memorial School and the ministry's response again to what happened. I still feel that the response has been unsatisfactory, and the PR press conference that set up the principal as the what we would you talk about the fall guy. I would say the fall girl set her up, and I felt empathy, some of the greatest empathy for her. And I believe that this picture that was presented to us still needs to be clearer, and we need to have protocols shared with us on how similar exercises would be undertaken. Yes, communications and PR. I don't want no PR. I don't want no public relations. I want communications. Let's take out the PR. That is what is happening with the ministries and this government. Everything is PR and paying PR consultants to do what? Give us hogwash talk and narrative. If you are appointed as a minister and you have a permanent secretary or you have a chief or head of department, let those persons speak. All of these glamour girls and glamour boys that are coming out, speaking on Ministry of Health, speaking on tourism, speaking on. So, what are the technocrats? What are the people who are being paid, the civil servants? Where is Government Information Service? I am tired of PR in the Ministry of Education and in other ministries. Get back to proper communication process with those who are heading these institutions and let them speak to us. Thank you. You're hearing now but where I am at on this one. So we're looking at the poor handling of the drill exercise at the Springer Memorial School. You could tell me, somebody said I can already see this government has failed miserably. You could tell me what grade you would give to that. And we are also looking, there's another note that I made here, the signage also at the IDB signage at St. Philip's Primary School. If someone did not pick it up and circulate it, disseminate it, we would never know what is afoot. Our children are not in a position to come home and tell us about this. To them, it is and and it goes on. So that is not in their their understanding or comprehension to pick up these things. So we thank that person who made it, put it in the public domain for us to know what's happening there. And I noticed how quickly I think the Minister of Education was at the school denying that this has really happened. But still, we cannot hear from the Minister of Education about the closure of St. John Primary. That is a no no. Another review, another item on the report card is that um, IDB interview, that IDB survey that was done that traumatized the children and was done without parental knowledge and parental permission and consent. That is unsatisfactory, and I hope it does not reoccur. And I'm telling the audience here to look out for a UNESCO survey on mental health, um, designed to determine the mental health of students. I think between 10, 10 and 19, and it has for me some very uh, disconcerting areas where upfront they're asking the child your gender. Are you male, female, or uh, non-binary, where they are asking some very um, closed questions on on their perception of mental health, their behaviors, uh, their circumstances, their feelings, their emotions. So keep your ears to the ground and be aware that this you not UNESCO, UNICEF questionnaire is out there, survey is out there, and it is online for your children to participate in. And my last question, remember I asked about the uh, budget for the reform. There, I am still awaiting uh, answers. So you know there are some outstanding assignments that have not been attended to, unanswered essays or papers, takeaway papers that I am still waiting to receive. For example, the budget for education, the budget for the reform process, uh, who is XQ Institute and their role, what they're playing, how much money they're giving us, what is their philosophy, who are the partnerships that the ministry, the prime minister talks about all the time, that they are engaging to assist with education reform. And if Marcia, you will permit me, which made me smile, um, the visit, the government, the British government, I had it here. Uh, the British government, ooh, is doing a major change too in their education system. And they're being knocked. I can't find it. I have too many notes here. But anyhow, that will come up another time. And this outstanding assignment from 2018, you could imagine this, Marcia, an assignment from 2018 that we are still awaiting some answers on. And I quote again, remember, Marcia, I brought this to the attention of this forum when I spoke on education reform, and I said, fix it. When the when the BLP government launched its manifesto, 2018 manifesto, building the best Barbados together, they had something called our urgent agenda, mission critical policies and actions. And I'm going to run through it quickly. They talked about in the first 6 months, it was promised, led by Mia Motley as she took the Barbados into that election. It was said our urgent agenda mission critical for the first 6 months, rebuilding of our reserves, dealing with debt, bringing tax relief, threats to the financial services sector, helping people to live. Barbados cannot now pay their bills. That's what she was saying at that time, or make ends meet. The BLP believes all Barbadians must be able to support their families and live with dignity. Arrears and refunds. Citizens and companies have severe cash flow challenges, partly because government will not pay what it owes. Protecting people's health. Our sewage systems must work. Getting rid of garbage, putting buses back on the roads, repairing our roads, alleviating water woes, citizen safety and well-being. And at the 14, empowering young people, we must and will preserve our future generations and empower them to have the best quality of life in that our country can give them. Our country cannot give them that that quality of life, if they got to go to school in stench and rodent droppings, and schools with an environmental issue start where it is necessary. And they said, and this, Marcia and Maxine and Caswell, is the assignment that I'm waiting for since 2018, the first 6 months of this government taking up its leadership position in this country. An immediate plan of action to end the current epidemic of violence in schools. How do you grade that? 2018 assignment, 6 months after they came into elections, and elections was in what? May 2018. So Truvia may count to the old people. You know, Maxine, that's how the old people used to count. And as well, Truvia May then June, July, August, September, October, November. November 2018, that assignment was supposed to be submitted. Immediate plan of action.
So they're being quite delinquent, quite delinquent. You know what? I would love for you to send us that list, because I think we need to continue on that list. I believe that I can literally see us creating something from that list. So please ask your husband to
Yes,
take a
we will
picture
do
and
it.
send that to me right away. Mrs. Corbin,
So I've got a few more points quickly,
quickly,
Mark,
1 minute, 1 minute.
from this assignment. Address violence and bullying among school children by placing more guidance counselors and social workers, and starting anger management and conflict resolution classes in schools by 2018, September 2018. And another one, to ensure a reliable and timely school bus service from September 2018. Didn't we see in one of those town hall meetings in St. Thomas and St. Andrew, where parents were complaining about poor school bus service? And we can go through Barbados at any time on the morning and see children standing at the bus stop around 9 o'clock waiting for buses when school is called, and placing safety officers on buses and at places where students and young people congregate in large numbers. Didn't we see where the students from, I think, from that school in St. James mash up the people bus shelter? Where were the safety officers
No safety officers.
in that area? So,
Listen.
to my class called Barbados and the Ministry of Education, as your parent, I have the strap. I had the strap butt and the cuckoo stick here to put some lashes on you, but somehow it has been removed. School will restart in January, a couple of days or weeks' time. You will hear bling, 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 the ringing of the bell for schools to start, or you will hear the electronic bell, bing, school start. I am not accepting a report like this from you next term. But I want to see these environmental issues, the handling of staff done properly. The environmental issues corrected, the staff transfers and the treating of staff done properly. I want to hear about that you've gone back to the drawing board with education reform. You're going to look at those things that are working and retrofit them and attend to them, and the things that are just narratives, the things that sound sweet and sexy, that you will look at them again and say, in whose interest are these things being done? I would like to have some questions about that budget for education to reform and how it be allocated. This is homework, and I don't want it to stay as long as May 2018 and should have been submitted
Okay.
by September 2018. So 2024, by God's grace, here we come, and we are expecting better for our children who attend our public and private public primary and secondary, as well as nursery schools and tertiary. We ain't
Tertiary.
even look at tertiary BCC or the Polytechnic. The Polytechnic SJPP, they were closed here towards the end of the term. We're not hearing about these issues. I want
Mhm.
to know where the money and how the money is being spent. And I do not want to hear from any PR communications consultant.
Yes. Well,
Schools,
well,
uh,
Mrs.
thank
Corbin,
you
I,
very
I
much.
tell you, this has been very comprehensive because then I'm going back remembering this is really a year in review that is happening here, and we are so. Listen, you don't know the amount of notes that I have taken um, while you were presenting, but only because of time that we have to ask you to hold there. We want to bring in the headmaster tonight, and as we close, we're going to, because we had so many issues, guys. If you can indulge me with an extra 15 minutes tonight, I would appreciate that. So we want to just hear, Mr. Caswell, your general thoughts on education and what was presented this evening. And then as we close off, we hear from each of the other presenters, and we have a call. There's a call that's coming in. So right after Mr. Franklin, we're going to have the call, and then we're going to go to the three presenters. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Franklin. You're muted.
I too have my notes.
Yes.
And Rose started out by giving sixth grades, and she tried to fit them in to her grades, but there should be one other: outstanding failures. That should be number 7, because everything that Rose spoke about, it was an outstanding failure. But she didn't have that graded. That's one thing, you know. But she was absolutely right about what is happening in the schools. You cannot have teaching and learning in an environment of stress where people are getting sick and the government refusing, and I'm saying refusing because they can find $3 million to build that monument downtown. That was not a priority. The health and safety of our children was more of a priority than that. But nobody gets to open a school that has already been opened before and put a plaque on it and to say, well, it was opened by so and so for posterity. So all people are doing right now is trying to make themselves look good. There's one other thing. I don't want to take too long because I want other people to speak. The poor grade of the Ministry of Education should not be to the Ministry of Education. It should be to the Minister of Education, who is responsible, and the Prime Minister, who is responsible for transferring heads of department. And principals of secondary schools are heads of department. So this debacle with the principals being transferred at midnight, and some 8 o'clock in the morning to say, oh, don't go to that school, you are supposed to go somewhere else, when they get ready to go to work, is the Prime Minister's fault. You had people acting in jobs for 3 and 4 years. The law does not allow you to do that, have a vacancy for more than a year. But these vacancies can only be filled with the Prime Minister's consultation. They say consultation. But what has happened? They do not. The prime minister does not consult. She dictates. She decides which principal, who will become a principal, which person will become a principal. That is contrary to our constitution. That is contrary to our law. But that is another outstanding failure. Another part, failure to obey the laws and constitution of Barbados. And now I started by saying because of the leadership, um, everything is breaking down in the society. Well, this is just it. Because if we have a prime minister who looks the other way when it comes to dealing with the laws of Barbados, the Public Service Act, the Constitution of Barbados, and she glibly just decides, oh, who will be a principal? She has no training in the area, but she decides because of political affiliation who becomes principal. So when people blame the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Education only takes directions from the minister and the prime minister. So, and whatever you do, no chief education officer, no permanent secretary of education, no admin officer in education can decide, minister, I ain't doing that. This is what you said, but that's not right. You have to follow the directions given by the minister. So, and then the ministers are responsible to the people. And they are the people who are supposed to report. And we have some very low-keyed ministers. And I remember the prime minister saying, many hands make light work. What she should have said is, many hands don't do any work. Because that is what is happening in this country. Wherever you see something going on, the prime minister, they open a fish market, the prime minister becomes minister of agriculture, food and fisheries, or whatever they call them these days, she's there open the fish market. Police station, she can be there too. Everywhere the prime minister pops up on her frequent visits to Barbados. Because as I told you many times, she does not live here. And I doubt she will be required to pay taxes in Barbados because she has not been here for 183 days in any 1 year. You're only supposed to pay taxes if you're in Barbados for 183 days. She don't qualify to pay taxes in Barbados. And that is the problem. She comes in, does foolishness, and everything falls down around her. I don't know if she gives instructions that the nothing can happen unless she says so. But Marcia, quickly, because I know that we are at 2 minutes after 10, and there is something that is bothering me.
This is, I know that one thing. You're going to do that at the very end, okay? Let me just close off this session of review, and then you are going to, we're going to have to address at the very end. We're doing an
Yes.
extra 15 minutes tonight,
All
Miss.
right. So what I
Okay?
can say is Rose did a very good job, but I kind of expect that from Rose now.
Yes.
We get good quality people on this show. Maxine did an
Wow.
outstanding thing. Thierry did an outstanding thing. No Rose, but she's on bread. I'm
And
overwhelmed.
you know what I loved about Rose when she started out, commended,
I
she
was
commended.
instructing because I was listening.
Okay, who's okay? Let's see if I turn off Rose's mic, that might help. Um, what I want to say is, I really loved the way that Rose was able to commend the way she commended the um the teachers, right? And she gave an excellent grade to the teachers, the principals, those who are retiring. And, those teachers, Theory, who were working in very, very tough conditions and still producing at the end. And we must give those the kudos. It's not all bad because our workers are working. They are making everything work. Even though when you think about working with rodent droppings and all the environmental issues, and children were still going to school. A few schools there were times that they didn't have schools, but it's just a few schools. But people generally tried to make it work. I
The,
just want, yes,
the toughest job in the world And the most important job is a teacher. I don't care what about tell me. I might say trade unions is second, but it will not come before teachers. And the teachers in Barbados are treated very badly. Unfortunately, their unions don't stand up for them. Look, you imagine you have a classroom, let's say 25 students, 25 children from different backgrounds, 25 people who are differently socialized, some of them different learning levels, and you have to try to deal and teach and control them. That is not easy. And teachers were given over the years what they call a terms leave, basically to recharge their batteries. The people took that away from them. And the unions, the teachers' unions, refused to take industrial action, preferring to go to the court. And it took 7, 8 years for the courts to pronounce on some of this. When teachers who were entitled to their leave didn't get it. And that was a change in conditions of service. You cannot do that. You cannot change a man's contract midstream without his consent. The government did it, and teachers suffered. Rather than the union saying, "No, something, this is not an action for the court. This is an industrial relations action. My teachers will not work until it changed." Then you would have seen what happened. But no, there's play the fool, get the thing stretched out in court, and teachers were suffering because I am telling you, I know of teachers who had to get psychiatric help because, but that, you after a while you need to go and talk with somebody before you do something strange.
Yeah.
It is not easy. Teaching is one of the hardest jobs in the world, and especially teaching little children. Young people. I can
Indeed.
people who teach adults like Maxine, who are people who were motivated, who knew what they wanted to do. That was challenging too, but it could not be as challenging as teaching children who don't want to be there
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
they see, and that is the problem here in Barbados. We do not appreciate the workers that we have,
Yeah.
and teachers suffer as a result, and they're very poorly paid. Teachers, nurses. Right now, we have nurses who left Barbados and wrote me back because I hooked them up with a recruiter in New York. Well, come back and let me know she's getting 98,000 US a year. Nurses make $4,000 Barbados for you know what I mean, three, 4, depending on how long you've been working, and you can go to New York and get 98,000. And the thing is, people out there value our people. You remember some time ago they were trying to recruit teachers from Jamaica and Barbados because we have the best teachers. They just left and went to states to teach because they were saying that the Bajan teachers are good and they get better results. And we are not recognizing them. Then we are taking people who have not taught, and to punish teachers, you bring people who are not trained and put them in secondary school to teach people.
Yeah. Well, which this is why Miss Corbin gave them an excellent grade at the start of her presentation. I am looking for the person. There's a young man. Everybody's young in this program, not just theory. Who called, and I'm not sure if it's Mr. Pedro Gemot. That's the name I have, but I might have written down the wrong name. And I told you to call back at the end of the program if you are listening. I don't want you to say I didn't give you that chance. So the number that I thought you called me from, I called there, but I heard it seems like it's a business place. So if you can give us a call, if you really still are interested in speaking this evening, want to encourage those who are calling. All right. But while we wait on this gentleman to call, I'm just going to go just in the order that the presentations were made tonight and ask our presenters. First of all, thank you for staying to the end to listen to others. And as theories kind of said, you know what, we're learning from each other, and I'm glad. I love that approach. So let me go to Miss McLean. Is there any final words you want to say this evening to Barbados, the opposition, the 280,000 people who will watch this program?
Yes, I want to, but what I want to say is less about my presentation and more about Thierry's, because I think in talking about tourism, which is supposed to be the one of the main sectors, we keep hearing that we cannot or should not um, try to stand on one leg, so to speak. And I want to say to Rose that we can see the value of our educational system in the presentation that we got from Thierry. This is the second time I've heard you, and I told Marcy I have to reach out to you because I think in your presentation, I made a note here, my red pen, as the teachers would do. You identified opportunities and examples of innovation, and that is something that we have to draw from our people, particularly our young people. And I don't think there's enough. So, in talking about the areas that you focus on, digital services, technological development opportunities, I think I have it correctly said, designing for exports, those are some very critical areas. And I believe that, and I want to stress the issue of food, the food crisis and food security, food safety, and all of these things. But I also see it as a critical entrepreneurial opportunity, and it is one in which there can be very clear linkages with tourism. Contrary to what you might have said, I've seen the other side because I've been working with some young people in agriculture. I have a niece who is trained in agriculture before she got trained in management and economics, and she's working in agriculture for the last 9 years or so, a young woman. um, I would want I would want to see more persons like it's the was it Green Haven. I'm trying to remember the name of the
Yes,
Green
it's Haven Farms.
Green Haven Farms, because there are so many opportunities. And I actually have access to an agricultural scientist of many years, not in Barbados, but of Barbadian ancestry, who really is willing to come to Barbados anytime, was here recently. And so there's some very clear things that can be done to address opportunities for young people. And in terms of the areas that you listed, I really want to compliment you. I think you make my heart glad, because Marcy will tell you there are a couple of things that really um, get me very willing to give up sleep or time or whatever. One is the credit union movement, and linked to that is entrepreneurship. I continue to work with a lot of young entrepreneurs quietly, and there are ways in which I think that we can build on what you're saying and make sure that persons like yourself are able to achieve the things that you want to do, and to support innovation in a way that I think you envisage it can be done. So
Wonderful. Yeah. And Miss McLean, I keep saying you're a stalwart, and it's a shame. That's one thing in the review I would say. It's a pity that the government is not using your skills,
I
so
use them
that more,
myself. I don't
yes,
wait on anybody.
I
I
know.
know
So
I go and find the young people to work with.
so that we will have more of these the Greenhaven farms. But Mr. Gittens, what are your final thoughts tonight?
If I will start with Mr. Franklin, I respect what you said with respect to teachers, but to me, sir, you forgot some crucial points. With respect to the aspect of what they have to do. A teacher has their own class of their own farm. You said 25, but realistically, being a student who just came out of secondary school is 36 students.
Mhm.
36 students for most schools. Then you're a subject teacher, and some teachers teach up to four subjects. I want that to sit in. Some teachers teach up to four subjects. Then, sadly, we have in our schools, we have violence in our schools and different issues as well. There is no security individuals most days that deal with these issues. That's a reality across schools. Guess who has to deal with this situation? Teachers. The things that these teachers see on a daily basis, whatever we want to acknowledge or don't acknowledge, is horrendous in some instances. That's just the case. And it's not a matter of higher secondary schools or lower secondary schools, given the elitist perspective by many individuals. It is a reality across the board. And these persons are amazing, I don't want to use the word warriors, our amazing leaders, our amazing caregivers have to deal with these issues. 36 students teaching at least two subjects, and sometimes, as I said before, four. You're still a part of clubs to help to um, improve the youth perspective and empower youth. Then you still have your home life, trying to balance bills. I don't know how much a teacher makes, but if any person could educate me, it would help to add to my point. But I don't think it's a lot, as you referenced that of nurses. Is that fair? I remember the great Angela Merkel, and I use the word great because she said something in Parliament, in German Parliament, that resonated with me as a young person. One of the opposition in her party said that why are teachers, sorry, in Germany pay so much? The Prime Minister or the Chancellor said, how did you become a parliamentarian? Then she answered her own question. Someone taught you, someone had to teach you to help you to get to the level you're at. So therefore, that is why teachers are paid a lot in Germany. Granted that I believe that if what's the word I'm looking for? If a European nation such as Germany could value their teachers, why can't we? And as we said, Jamaica and us and other Caribbean countries are valued across the board and across the world for our teaching. Then I would like to look at what um, the great Mrs. Carbon said. And I said great because I do not know you personally, ma'am, but you referenced some amazing points. You spoke clearly to the people of Barbados and honestly to the people of Barbados. And I applauded with my camera off because to me, these are issues that are real. I felt very sad to know that young persons such as myself, young children, have to go school in conditions such as those that we are currently facing. That's horrible. That's horrendous. And I am not a parent, but I imagine in that moment, as myself being a parent, how I would feel to know my child is going to school in those conditions and it did not sit well with me. Or even me as a big brother, how I would feel my little brother when he has to go to school, going to school in those kind of conditions. Or even my cousins that I have, I wouldn't feel well or feel good about it. So I thank you for referencing those points. You spoke about the environment, you spoke about the problem with respect to hiring and what's the word I'm looking for? Transferring of
Transfer.
principals and teachers. I am very appreciative to you. And mom, Mrs. McLean, I know you spoke about my points, but let us speak about your points as well. I commend you for speaking about tourism in the way you did, paying attention to it. Because even though young persons or even persons in the professional sense are saying that we need to move away from tourism being our main um, sector, our main industry, it has to be the backbone. Because you cannot have a organism, any organism, without a strong backbone, a, a vertebrate organism without a strong backbone. I'm using my biological knowledge, but what I'm trying to say in layman terms is that for our country to grow, just like the Saudis did, we must expand, but do not forget where we came from as a people. And it's absolutely imperative for all Barbadians to understand this. I hope I didn't over elaborate, but to me, everyone here spoke about these issues, and I hope that it has inspired each Barbadian to say, how can I play my part in this? Because as much as we have four people or five people doing their part, it is not going to happen until every single songbird sings the same song, the same song of freedom, the same song of hope, and most importantly, the same song of improvement. Thank you.
Yeah, the song of improvement. And that's what we're hoping, honestly, to come out of these sessions. Thank you all so very much. Right, I have Miss Corbin, literally 1 minute, because everybody went over a little bit. 1 minute. Do you have anything else that you want to add?
Yes, please. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and
Yes,
clear, ma'am.
please. I forgot to say thank you to the students who went to school and Michigan. Um, you touched my heart when you talked about those who have to go to school and learn in that environment. I want to say thanks to the students and their resilience. And it shows that there's hope in our nation. We need to treat them well. We need to treat people like you, Mr. Gittens, well. We need to create opportunities for young people. I learned from you, and you seem to have such a mature head and understanding on such a young frame. And thank you. I would like sometime that we could put up your definition, your slide on education, because I sat up and read it. And thank you. And keep focused and keep being a mentor and encouraging your own. Thank you too for joining our more mature forum, like persons like Maxine and Marcia and Caswell. Thank you for being part of our company and helping us to learn from you. Maxine, I always learn from you, and you help us to think outside the box and see things from another and different perspective, especially the backbone. The backbone of our country is to looking at creative, innovative ways to to grow our economy beyond borrowing and begging. Oh gosh, it is ad nauseum for me, this borrowing and this begging, but to look at how we can create our own sphere of economic growth and development. And thank you, Maxine, again for looking at the opportunities through entrepreneurial development, just as Mr. Gittins did. Thank you, Caswell, as usual, for giving us that oversight and substantiating the things that we would share. And Marcia, thank you. And to the parents out there, thank you for still having faith in an education system that looks like it may be failing. But with persons like myself, I am going to stand on the wall. I'm going to stand in the gap and I'm going to speak out because education is my passion. So thank you, students, for your resilience. Thank you, parents. Thank you, guardians. Thank you, PTAs who mobilized and who lent a voice when you saw things going downward. Together we can pull back up education to the standard and pull back this country to the standard of excellence that we grew up in and that we have grown accustomed to. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Welcome, and you, Rose, you capture the essence of this show, and we really, put everybody placed the effort in it because we want to see a better Barbados, and it is possible. It is possible. It is possible. We're speaking it into being, and we're going to work towards it in a non-partisan way. We do have one issue that occurred because we try to be current, and we have one issue that occurred today, and that came out in the news, I think yesterday, today, and
Yesterday.
Mr. Franklin is going to address it. But I want to just close off this section and thank you, Theory, for coming. God bless you, Miss McLean, and God bless you, Miss Corbin. God bless. Thank you. Bye bye. Yes, go ahead, Caswell.
Yesterday I read in horror about a robbery. But the horror was not the robbery. The horror was what he stole. The robber is alleged to have stolen a check belonging to Santia Bradshaw, made payable by Errol Clark Associates Limited. I want to understand why Errol Clark Associates Limited would be paying any money to a minister of government. A minister of government who is a lawyer is not supposed to work as a lawyer after they become a minister. You cease your practice. So it can't be for legal work because she's been out of she's been away from the law too long, unless that money was owed since 2018 or prior to 2018. Now, if it isn't for legal work that she would have done prior to 2018, for which she should be put in court ever since because you ain't paying money, what was this money payable for? The guy actually, a guy called Tyrone St. Elmore Holford, he's now residing at Dodge Prison for a series of burglaries. But this one burglary, he united a check, and the check was for, according to the charge, he's accused of uttering a forged bill of exchange to RBC Royal Bank, purported to be a RBC Royal Bank check payable to S. Bradshaw, Santa Bradshaw, for $7,500 by order of our Clark Associates, knowing the same to be forged. He stole that from her office. He broke into her constituency office and stole that check. She needs to answer. When that young man ill-advisedly took his little boy to work with him on the minibus, she was out there. And she was on the up front thing. This is a person who does work, our Clark Associates does work in the Ministry of Public Works, or his firm is an engineering group that would or could do work in the Ministry of Public Works. So I am not accusing her of anything wrong. I am saying it looks wrong, and it needs an explanation. She should not be receiving money from anybody. That is why they pay her well as a minister. They pay her big bucks. She gets and she also gets a car. She shouldn't, but she does, and a chauffeur. So she doesn't need to be getting money from hither, thither, and yon. I remember one other MP who got a check from somebody else, and he spent time in jail for it. I don't know if something similar should happen here. I want to know the answers. I want to know why that check was paid. I am entitled to know. I'm a Barbadian. I'm a Barbadian electorate. Well, until they stop me from my national ID, my digital ID, so that I won't be none. But until such time, I want to know why the minister would be in receipt of a check. I worked for a minister years ago, and every year I would organize a food hamper drive, and I would beg, raise funds, and one day a man gave me a check in his name. And he said, "Mikhail's carry it back." Nobody gave me the money. That money will go to the St. Thomas branch. And the branch will make use of that money to buy the hampers, but no, not me. So I understand, and that is the way I was taught, and that is the way I expect. So if this was money given to her for something in her constituency, it should not be written in her name. So I'm covering all the bases. If it was a donation for the hamper drive or for whatever, why is it payable to her? It looks bad. You should, because this guy would be doing work for her ministry, and he should not be getting back any. She should not be getting back any, or appear to be getting back any. So we need to understand this, and we need to know. Barbados needs to know why this is so. She must come out and make a statement, and if she does not come out and make a statement, the Prime Minister must come out and say, "I am very sorry, Santia, you gotta go." It's as simple as that. She should not remain as Deputy Prime Minister with a check hanging over her head. Checks in Barbados have brought many politicians, in my experience. And this one, $7,500 might not be a lot of money to some people. It's a lot for me. But when you are in receipt of money as a minister of government, you must have clean hands or appear to have clean hands. And right now, that check haven't been stolen and they're in the public domain that the check was stolen from your office from a person who contracts with your ministry. You need to speak about it. I am not accusing her of anything. I want her to come out and clear the air, because I will be accusing later if she doesn't clear the air. So until such time, Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Miss Cynthia Bradshaw, you need to speak up or leave the service of this country. You can't have both.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Marcia.
Caswell. Thank you, Caswell. And this is a topic, this is an issue that the Marcy Week Show will be continuing to ask questions about it every night that we are on. We are not going to leave this up. We're going to continue to ask these questions. It's a serious matter. And no accusations, because we can't. We don't have any facts. But I think it is in our right as the people who have put these politicians in office to ask questions. We do not have an opposition in Parliament or in the Senate. And therefore, it is us Barbadians that have to open our mouths and have the courage to ask these hard questions, and for our leaders to answer the questions. And that's all we're asking tonight, because we cannot make accusations because we don't have all facts, but we need answers. Simple as that. Let me just say good night to everyone, and just to remind us that we are on tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday, but this is going so good. We are on tomorrow. Tomorrow Saturday at 7. It's the entire weekend, right? That we're on. I'm trying here to make sure that I can actually show the flyer. So we're on tomorrow, and at 7 o'clock, and we are going to have some other speakers. So tomorrow we have Jonathan, another young person, will be with us tomorrow. Listen, we're all young. Mr. Franklin is with us every night. Mr. Franklin is young too. So tomorrow we have Jonathan,
Young and healthy.
young and healthy. You are so right, young and healthy. Right. So yeah, he's gonna be on tomorrow night, because you're gonna get everybody. We got different nights. You have different persons will be on, and we're going to hopefully have Kimar Stewart tomorrow. Mr. Franklin, Dr. Nichols, I'm sorry, Dr. Nichols, he is performing at the Singing Tree at People's Cathedral, because he's also sings, and he's an artist, and he is not. That's why you didn't see him here tonight. But he's going to be. We're hoping that he'll be on between Saturday and Sunday. But Heather Cole is going to join me tomorrow as well, because it's Saturday, so she has the free time to come on. So we're going to and we're saving, hopefully trying to save Mr. Franklin for last for his presentation. But I know that he's all ready to go. Mr. Franklin, what are you going to talking about in your? Just give us just a line there. What is it you're talking about? I know you're preparing.
I no, I'm going to prepare. I'm not preparing yet. I'm still working. The thing, but I want to talk about the promises that and delays
Yes.
that have been told to us. And I want to touch on the misbehavior that we see in government, in the form of government, when you can go out to parliament and pass laws without telling people. I want to talk about all those things. I have to work tomorrow to do that. So I'm not going to work tomorrow. I'm going to try to sit down and get that done.
Yes. Okay. So that we could be ready for Sunday is a big day. Sunday is an early time. It's at 3 o'clock, because I know that people want to spend those last hours with family and going out and so on. So We made it a bit earlier on Sunday. So please take note of that, that it's a bit earlier. We keep pushing that, all right? On Sunday. Yes, we went way over time tonight, but I think it was well worth it. So we will see you tomorrow. God bless you all. Nigel, I'm so sorry I missed your questions. I did not see those questions at all, and we will talk off air about those questions. All right, and hopefully we'll have a time at the end of everything that you probably can come on and ask those questions. Okay, sorry about that. God bless you all, guys. You drop Nigel 8787, loyal daughter Jacqueline Woods. Everybody, good night, good night, good night. Thank you so very much for joining. I can't call everybody's name, but Judith and Clark, thank you for those who called in to the program tonight. Glenn Griffith, thank you. Pedro Jemmett, Oswald Newton, Pete Way, Thelma Yearwood, God bless you all and have a good night. All right, see you all tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you, Mr. Franklin. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
good
God
night.
bless you. Bye bye.